The first stage today, 76-year Italia from Porto to Portoferraio. And the riders now are going to show us some beautiful countryside here around the island of Elba, 85 kilometres, some 53 miles. This is a morning stage. They're facing the first important time trial this afternoon. And this is the only climb of the day, the Marciana climb. And this is Bruno Leali leading a small group away from the front, and it looks as though he's building a little bit of daylight. Bruno Leali, I think he's got Moreno Argentine with him. And these three riders going clear, one rider trying to latch onto the back. Not surprisingly, the Italians right out on the attack on this very first day of the Tour of Italy. Leali, Argentine, and David Cassani is the other rider. This is Leali we're looking at here. Greatest victory of his career came back in 1987 when he won the national championship of Italy, riding on the Carrera team then. Same team as Stephen Roach that year when he went to win the Tour of Italy, Tour de France, and indeed the World Championship. Only one other rider ever done the big triple, and that is Eddie Merckx back in 1974. Well, this breakaway looks as though it may have slipped the field here on the final kilometres into the finish at Portoferraio. They're over the hills now. 31 kilometres to go. We're down on the south of Elba here. It's a beautiful, beautiful island. It abounds with chestnut trees. It's famous for its nuts. And this is Arietta from Miguel Indurain's Banesto team. And already the winner of a year ago, Miguel Indurain, has ordered the Banesto team to start the chase. So quite clearly, Indurain is back here, determined to defend his #1 position in the Giro d'Italia. And the whole team has been sent to the front to try and close down this gap. So quite clearly, this is the man they fear most, Moreno Argentine. It's not long ago, in fact, since he said that he would think of retiring this year. He's only had a 5th place in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, a race which he has won no fewer than 4 occasions. There's Bruno Leali. And other riders in this breakaway, Marco Seligari, Vladimir Pulnikov, Massimo Girotto, Leali, and Zenon Jaskula. Jaskula, 153 there, the only Polish rider in the race. But now so many former Eastern Bloc nations are now spending their time, especially in Italy, where the climate suits them and the racing does indeed as well. The other rider in this breakaway, Stefan Calaget, won the Grand Prix, a series of wins in fact. He won 3 races down in Colombia right at the start of the season, including the Grand Prix Pony Malta. And this little breakaway has blended into a very smooth working group now. Long-term winners of the Tour of Italy, and that's what Indurain will be thinking about as he sees a time gap of 1 minute. Well, quite honestly, only Argentine here. Massimo Girotto is a very strong rider, never stops trying to win stages in big stage races. He's won 2 in the Tour de France. And look at this now, Argentine is going away. This is on the climb of Il Monumento, the last climb of the day, about 19 kilometres to go to the finish. And Argentine here is wanting to prove a point. The Mecchia team, I think it was Jaskula there trying to limit the attack here of Argentine, but he's in his rhythm. And this is a rider, Moreno Argentine, who has 4 times won Liège-Bastogne-Liège. They used to call him the king of the Ardennes because he's also won the Flèche Wallonne and the Tour de Flanders, indeed, in the Flanders side of Belgium. A man for the Spring Classics. He didn't do any good at all in Belgium this year. He's even talked about retiring from the sport. 32 years of age, over the top of the climb, and he's still clear. And a lovely crowd here on a most beautiful island in lovely warm conditions. That's where we are, top of Il Monumento. It's only a small little climb, brings the riders up to 261 metres above sea level, but remember they've built that height from scratch, climbing from the basement right up elevation of 261. Now it's down to the bottom again. Portoferraio next stop, and Argentina's got the gap. Well, this is the sort of escape you may remember when he won Milan-San Remo, or rather when he didn't win Milan-San Remo he had, and it was Sean Kelly who came across 2 years ago and beat him right on the line. And the little group that Argentina's left is holding their own as well. And it's being left to Bruno Leali to do the chasing, along with David Cassani. Cassani, a former teammate last year of Argentina, who's changed teams now. He's gone across to the Mecchia team from the Ariostia team. And just look at this. Well, he's won this one because he's putting the glasses on. That's always a good sign. He knows now he's getting ready for the finish, and he's going to give the salute, and it's a victory for Moreno Argentin. And this is the race for second place now. Vladimir Pulnikov and Saligari, and Saligari's going to beat Pulnikov to the line. Saligari gets it. Pulnikov is second, and the time gap 35 seconds on the line to Moreno Argentin, and the field right up behind them on the line as well. So the first ever Maglia Rosa for Moreno Argentin, who takes the early lead in the Tour of Italy, and this a man who really didn't expect to do so much. Hardly time for a rest, and the rider's now in action in the short time trial. This is Stephen Roach, former winner in 1987. And Roach now trying to land at the short time trial here around the island of Elba. A76 Italia from Porto Rizzurro to Portoferraio, and the riders now are going to show us some beautiful countryside here around the island of Elba. 85 kilometres, some 53 miles. This is a morning stage. They're facing the first important time trial this afternoon, and this is the only climb of the day, the Marciana climb. And this is Bruno Leali leading a small group away from the front, and it looks as though he's building a little bit of daylight. Bruno Leali, I think he's got Moreno Argentin with him. And these three riders going clear, one rider trying to latch onto the back. Not surprisingly, the Italians right out on the attack on this very first day of the Tour of Italy. Leali, Argentin, and David Cassani is the other rider. This is Leali we're looking at here. The greatest victory of his career came back in 1987 when he won the National Championship of Italy, riding on the Carrera team then. Same team as Stephen Roach that year when he went to win the Tour of Italy, Tour de France, and indeed the World Championship. Only one other rider ever done the big triple, and that is Eddie Merckx back in 1974. Well, this breakaway looks as though it may have slipped the field here on the final kilometres into the finish at Portoferraio. They're over the hills now, and 31 kilometres to go. We're down on the south of Elba here. It's a beautiful, beautiful island. It abounds with chestnut trees. It's famous for its nuts. And this is Arietta from Miguel Indurain's Banesto team. And already the winner of a year ago, Miguel Indurain, has ordered the Banesto team to start the chase. So quite clearly, Indurain is back here, determined to defend his #1 position in the Giro d'Italia. And the whole team has been sent to the front to try and close down this gap. So quite clearly, this is the man they fear most, Moreno Argentin. It's not long ago, in fact, since he said that he would think of retiring this year. He's only had a 5th place in Liège-Bastogne-Liège, a race which he has won no fewer than 4 occasions. There's Bruno Leali. And other riders in this breakaway, Marco Saligari, Vladimir Pulnikov, Massimo Girotto, Leali, and Zenon Jaskula. Jaskula, 153 there, the only Polish rider in the race. But now so many former Eastern Bloc nations are now spending their time, especially in Italy, where the climate suits them and the racing does indeed as well. The other rider in this breakaway, Stefan Calaget, won the Grand Prix, a series of wins in fact. He won 3 races down in Colombia right at the start of the season, including the Grand Prix Pony Malta. And this little breakaway has blended into a very smooth working group now. Long-term winners of the Tour of Italy, and that's what Indurain will be thinking about as he sees a time gap of 1 minute. Well, quite honestly, only Argentin here. Massimo Girotto is a very strong rider, never stops trying to win stages in big stage races. He won 2 in the Tour de France, and look at this now, Argentin is going away. This is on the climb of Il Monumento, the last climb of the day, about 19 kilometres to go to the finish, and Argentin here is wanting to prove a point in the Mecchia team. I think it was Jaskula there trying to limit the attack here of Argentin, but he's in his rhythm. And this is a rider, Moreno Argentin, who has 4 times won Liège-Bastogne-Liège. They used to call him the king of the Ardennes because he's also won the Flèche Wallonne and the Tour de Flanders, indeed, in the Flanders side of Belgium. A man for the Spring Classics. He didn't do any good at all in Belgium this year. He's even talked about retiring from the sport, 32 years of age, over the top of the climb, and he's still clear. And a lovely crowd here on a most beautiful island in lovely warm conditions. That's where we are, top of Il Monumento. It's only a small little climb, brings the riders up to 261 meters above sea level, but remember they've built that height from scratch, climbing from the basement right up elevation of 261. Now it's down to the bottom again. Porto Ferreo next stop, and Argentina's got the gap. Well, this is the sort of escape you may remember when he won Milan-San Remo, or rather when he didn't win Milan-San Remo he had, and it was Sean Kelly who came across 2 years ago and beat him right on the line. And the little group that Argentina's left is holding their own as well. And it's being left to Bruno Leali to do the chasing, along with David Cassani. Cassani, a former teammate last year of Argentina, who's changed teams now. He's gone across to the Mejia team from the Ariostia team. And just look at this. Well, he's won this one because he's putting the glasses on. That's always a good sign. He knows now he's getting ready for the finish, and he's going to give the salute, and it's a victory for Moreno Argentin. And this is the race for second place now. Vladimir Pulnikov and Saligari's going to beat Pulnikov to the line. Saligari gets it. Pulnikov is second, and the time gap 35 seconds on the line to Moreno Argentin, and the field right up behind them on the line as well. So the first ever Maglia Rosa for Moreno Argentin, who takes the early lead in the Tour of Italy, and this my man who really didn't expect to do so much. Hardly time for a rest, and the rider's now in action in the short time trial. This is Stephen Roach, former winner in 1987. And Roach now trying to land at the short time trial here around the island of Elba, just 9 kilometers, based on the Finnish town of Porto Ferreo. And Roach riding out his final Tour of Italy after a wonderful career, highlighted in 1987 when he won this race after a great battle with his teammate Vicentini, which became at times most unpleasant. So Stephen Roach, it's a short burst for Stephen. He prefers a longer test, and this is going to be maybe a top 15 finish for Roach as he comes up, and he gets top 13. Now teammate and friend Claudio Chiappucci, king of the mountains last year in the Giro d'Italia. This rider would have been among the greats of world cycling if it hadn't been for one Miguel Indurain, because he's always stopped him claiming the top position in the big tours. He's underway, and here's the man that prevents him from that great moment. Miguel Indurain, last to go, and number 1 on his bike frame as the winner of the Tour of Italy. The first ever Spanish winner, and indeed, of course, the only Spanish winner of the Tour of Italy last year. Now trying to defend his championship. He's on the road as Chiappucci comes to the finish. Let's have a look what sort of time we can expect now from Chiappucci. The time to beat is a good one. Eddie Seigneur of France, the new French professional, has done 10:43.1, reliving his great team time trialing days as an amateur. And Chiappucci is on a good time for him. Second best time, 10:49.2, just 6 seconds slower than Seigneur. And now we're looking at Maurizio Fondries making his start, who's having a tremendous season, without doubt his finest season since he turned professional in 1987, and then went on to controversially win the World Championship when Steve Bauer and Claudio Coquillon fought it out quite literally just yards from the finish. And this is a very, very good time indeed. He's leading at the checks, and you can believe this, is ahead of Miguel Indurain, Maurizio Fondries. He's had such a wonderful start to the year. He won Tirreno Adriatico, he won a stage of the Ruta del Sol, Milan-San Remo was his, the Flèche Wallonne was his, and look at Indurain now as he comes to the finish. Indurain challenging now Seigneur's time of 10:43. He's going to beat that. That's to be expected, I think. Miguel Indurain has proved himself to be virtually unbeaten in the time trials, and he's holding that right now. 2.6 seconds better than Eddie Seigneur. And now Fondries, they're saying he is quicker at the checkpoints, and this will really be a surprise if he comes home with the best time. As Maurizio is heading for the line, he's a completely changed man this year. Gianni Bugno, the world champion, out on the road. And meanwhile, at the start house, the leader this morning, after the stage victory, Moreno Argentin, waiting for the start. His right is the Maglia Rosa. And Argentine is underway. Not the best of time trials. He might be inspired today, though. Now he's the race leader for the first time ever in the Tour of Italy. Here's Fondriest further along the road, still looking very, very smooth indeed and full of fight. He's never, in fact, won a time trial since he turned professional 5-6 years ago now. But he's going to run, he's going to win, he's going to beat this time. Indurain is going to be bettered, and look at that, 2.1 seconds better over 9 kilometres. That really is a turn up for the book. Fondriest now is top of the leaderboard. Bunyo, who is a good time trialist, but he rarely beats Miguel Indurain. He's not going to do it again this time. He's a little bit down the pan, but Argentine, fourth time of Bunyo, is now fifth of Chiapucci. So Argentine has done a good ride for him. 10 seconds slower than the leader. And this is Greg LeMond coming home. But LeMond is going to be maybe top 20 here. He's a little bit down off the pace. He's not finding the sort of form that has taken him to the top in these short bursts in the Tour de France over years gone by. He's still struggling to find the finesse that he once had. Difficult days for Greg LeMond. Outside, 28 seconds off the pace for him. And Andy Hampson also. If only he could time trial, he would win these stage races so much more easily, or at least stay among the leaders. He's not a good time trialist, and Hampson again is not finding the time trial to his liking. Dropping right out here. He's going to be into the 70s by the time he gets to the line, as Andy Hampson finishes 72nd. But the surprise of the day, no doubt about it, Maurizio Fondriest gets his first time trial win as a professional and beats Miguel Indurain. Stephen Roach, 25th in the time trial, but is it his last race?
Well, you know, it's now 13 years on the road, so it's not getting any easier. And like I've always, the last couple of years, I've had a lot of trouble with my knee, my back, and everything like that. It's taken a lot of stick out of my morally. It's taken that out of me. So now I'd like to just kind of have a good season this year, finishing well up in the Giro and the Tour, and then call it a day.
The day Roach retires will be a sad day for world cycling. He's been great. Moreno Argentine, though, is now the leader of the Giro d'Italia for the first time in his 13-year career, as the riders all say goodbye now to the island of Elba. Now here's Napoleonism for you. Able was I, ere I saw Elba. If you say it backwards, it'll say the same thing. It's a palindrome. And so on to the second stage of 229 kilometres from Grosseto to Rieti. Just a small climb, the Castelfranco climb near the end, bringing the riders up to over 600 metres. It should be the sort of finish for the sprinters, although they might find at the climb at the end a little bit of a problem. Miguel Indurain has made a perfect start, just lying off the lead there in third place. He must be a little bit surprised, though, at having been beaten in the time trial. And this is an attack by Michele Capolino, who comes from the Navigare team. 37 kilometres from the finish. Well, the Italians will all take their chances here. They grossly outnumber the foreign entry, as they always do. Race in excess of 3,700 kilometres. Moreno Argentine looking a little bit concerned here, talking to his Mejia team, and now wants a little bit more action out. I think he doesn't want to lose that jersey. He sees himself holding it for the first 2 weeks of this race, if he can. Although he's got one long time trial to come, which might well see it swing towards Indurain. But this is a big moment now for Moreno, proving to the Tifosi that he's really back in a big way. At 32 years of age, he's been a pro for 13 seasons. A long time to stay professional. There's Capolino. But he's not going to work. As we head on to the Castelfranco climb, the old legs have given out, and it's back into the complete field here. And it is now Argentine's team who's got control of the head of the race. Well, when you have the leader on your squad, you've got to do most of the work. The rainbow jersey of world champion worn by Gianni Bunyo down there, and just sitting behind him is Prudencia Indurain, not Miguel, because brother Prudencia is riding. And now an attack by Claudio Chiapucci. Well, this is the gadfly of world cycling. He attacks whenever he senses a drop in the pace, but Bunyo is right on him here. And it's Indurain as well who's got him. So the big three over previous tours are now at the head of the race. And Luc Leblanc, the champion of France, was also there. This is now Franco Coccioli, who has won the Tour of Italy before. And now trying a lone attack. This constant attacking quite often can develop a breakaway. they head up towards the Castelfranco climb. And this is one of the small teams, the Mappe riders, coming up, and it looks as though it might well be Della Santa who's caught him up. Stefano Della Santa, I think it was, who's latched on to the back. So we've got two riders in front, but the whole line is after them now. As they go over the top of the climb, they're on the way down. It's all downhill towards the finish. And now we're getting up to some reasonable speed here as they chase down towards the line at Rieti. And this is Bruno Kengialta in the lead. And look at this, Miguel Indurain has gone for it. Now that is unusual. Indurain really won't be thinking of Kengialta as a dangerous rival for a prospective win in the Giro d'Italia. Kengialta's stage win indeed in the Tour de France in the past. But this looks as though it's a show of defiance by Indurain. He wants to remind the rest that he is not just going to sit back and wait for the time trials. He's gone again. Smarting perhaps at losing to Fondriest in that short time trial yesterday. And now just 4 kilometres to go to the line. And inside 3 kilometres to go now. And they've swept them up indeed. So they wouldn't allow Indurain to go away like that. Indurain, too much of a strong man in the time trials to gain time in the road races would really be the end for the rest of the ride. It's going to be a sprint finish now. It's taken a little while to bring them all together, but they've come together now. And after 5 hours and 52 minutes, it looks like it's going to be a battle of the sprinters now. Little Adriano Baffi is coming through, and on the line it's going to be Baffi. Baffi takes it on the inside. Marco Saligari was second. It looked as though Dmitry Konishev was third. Overall, though, Argentin had the day he wanted. Retains his 36-second advantage over Fondriest, 38 over Indurain. Saligari, who scored second place there, up to fourth. So we go on, 157 kilometres today for the third stage, which takes them down to Rieti de Scano. And Maurizio Fondriest, having made a wonderful start. Not so, of course, for Gianni Bugno, but he doesn't look too unhappy, does he? The man who won the race back in 1990. And the man that won it last year, first Spanish rider ever, Miguel Indurain, looking a little bit pensive, but happy with the way the race has gone so far. These are the early days, of course. And two great friends back on the team when Roche won the Tour of Italy in 1987. Claudio Chiappucci, now the star of the team. And the riders now facing up to the 151 kilometres to Scano. Again, it's hot and humid weather conditions here. And this is Mario Chiesa, who started the attack at the front. And Fabio Roscioli, who's never won a race as a professional, by the way. But it doesn't stop him trying. He's a very strong domestique, a team rider, and Carrera have got both riders clear, which is rather unusual, but they really are a strong team. And the race now, 32 kilometres on the finish here, just passed through the village of Sulmona. And the Mechia riders are now marking. That's Luc Leblanc, who's come on to the back as well. Ugramov is the Mechia rider who's come up here. The gap is 30 seconds. And the Kelme rider who latched on in the green shorts there is Herman Buenajara. It's Buenajara who's setting the pace into the tunnel. Let's hope they come out the other side. Stunning scenery. The Tour of Italy now makes its way toward the finish in Scano. This little group of 4 riders. Luc Leblanc stands out well, number 3 in line in the tricolor jersey as champion of France. He'll be defending that title in a couple of weeks. And surprisingly, it is the Banesto riders here who are having to take up the chase. Now, you would normally expect to see Argentin with his men at the front, but he's got a man in that breakaway in Peter Ugramov, a rider who climbs very well, by the way. There he is sitting at the back, number 132, 10 kilometres to go to the finish. And Ugramov is the sort of rider, you know, could spring a surprise. And Argentin is now forcing Indurain's team to chase. Luc Leblanc is up here as well. And the other rider here, by the way, is Carlos Hernandez, former champion of Spain, a couple of years back now. And that's the sort of gap they've got. 2 riders who were dropped from that lead group. In fact, they're coming up. That is Stephen Roche there, who's coming up, and he's bringing along one of the riders from the San Roman, I think it is, from the Indurain team, Francisco San Roman. So those two are chasing, and the gap is 25 seconds at the Maria Rosa group. To the leading group is 25 seconds. That's Argentine's bunch, with Roche and San Roman in between. And if we look up to the top of the field there, they're not too far behind. These two are coming back. So we're heading up toward Villa Largo now. And this, we're looking at Roche, sitting at the back doing no work at all, and along for the ride here, San Roman. 7.4 kilometers to go. It's a long, steady climb, this. It's a sort of climb that Stephen Roche likes as they come up towards the leaders, and they've got them. Roche is immediately going through to the front to see what sort of reaction he gets. Well, Ugramov is going with him. Ugramov now trying to profit from this attack as the main field begins to fragment on the climb, especially at the back there. A lot of steady tempo riding being done. They're trying to limit the losses of that breakaway group, and it's a long, long climb. Passing around the edge of Scano Lake. And this little group is swelling at the front. Cocchioli has got across here now. And I think Enrico Zainer is here from the Mercatoni team. That's him coming up on the outside. Roberto Conti from Ariosti is up here. Valerio Tabaldi, who's pulled out a couple of good stage wins in the Tour de France in years gone by, usually on his own. But the whole field is closing down. So the steady tempo riding, largely done by Indurain's Benesto team, has closed this. Riders have tried to sprint off the front and escaped across the top and maybe snatched the stage win. This is Franco Coccioli at the front. But he's in second place now. He's slipped back one. And ride number 53 is Roberto Conti, a very good climber. We'll be looking forward to our trip through the Dolomites. And Luc Leblanc very prominent here all day today. Number 66 is Carlos Hernandez, sitting at the back, and we're lining up for the finish here. I don't think they're going to catch them now. Wouldn't it be great if Roche could pull it off, but Ugramov has got the lead. Ugramov has got the lead. He's the man that's been the surprise member of the breakaway, and the Mechia team have worked well to keep him up there, and he's going to do it. So that's a great win for Peter Ugramov, and a bonus for Argentine's Mechia team, because Ugramov is now up into second place overall, 26 seconds behind his teammate. So the Mechia team have got the top two slots overall. 179 kilometers at stage number 4 from Scano to Marquinizda. All downhill away from the Apennines, although the riders may not agree with it. And the big field today early on has caused quite a few problems. Among the fallers, Greg LeMond, who's crashed twice, Stephen Roche, who's crashed, and indeed the GAN team having an unhappy day, because Eddie Seigneur and Laurent Bezo have also gone down for the GAN team. They've had a long day today chasing at the back. This is an attack here by Eduardo Chozas we're looking at. The main field, although they know Chozas is a great lone expert and has won stages with his lone attacks, he's not going to challenge for the overall lead at the moment. And the Artitach team manager here having a word with Eduardo. Still 35 kilometers to go to the finish. Chozas out in front. He's been out there now for some 45 kilometers today. And the tempo nice and steady, 29 kilometers left to go. The last king of the mountains as they descend now towards the finish, not too far above sea level. And there he is on the right, and they've wiped him up. 50 kilometers he's out in front. And now the field again has come together, and the sprinters are going to try and have their day. 25 kilometers to go to the finish. And it looks like an attack there from Gianni Bugno. Well, this is a cheeky move by the world champion. Winner of the Giro d'Italia back in 1990, and that's when he shot to become world number 1. He led from start to finish. And those were the great days for him, but now he doesn't have that confidence this year. He doesn't seem to get things quite straight, mentally more than physically. And again, he's seen the field react, and he's come back into the group. Jojo Ferlin has gone off the front now, former teammate of Bugno and a classic winner in Belgium. The Ariostia team, I think they've lost the leader in Argentine this year, but they're still attacking him almost as if by a vengeance. But the field have got Ferlin in the sights. They're holding him right there. Just about 6 kilometers to go now as the riders line up for the finish. There's Furlan back in the pack on the right. And this has brought the Mercatoni Uno riders back into play now for Adriano Baffi, the sprinter, who's having a good tour so far. And now they've got their men right on the front here. But they'll have to watch out because they've got the Gatorade boys up there as well. And look at that man on the right, that's Indurain, who was right up there. Took a look over his shoulder, he's peeled away to stay out of the battle of the sprinters as they take themselves on now head to head, and it's Fabriano Baldato here in the centre and Manzoni of Gatorade, and it looks as though Baffi is out of this one because right on the line Baldato gets it. Mario Manzoni is second, Leone was third, Baffi in fact only finishing fifth. Overall no change, and Ugrimov stays in second place, Fondriest, Indurain, Sagliari in that order. 212 kilometres now, the fifth stage from Paestum to Termi Luigiani. And this is a town famous for its Greek colonies of years gone by. Magnificent temples that were built more than 2,500 years ago. They were in fact overgrown and forgotten for 1,000 years until the King of Naples decided to build a road across the plain. And this is a sight of pure courage from this man here who rides his bike every year to the Tour of Italy to see the riders. A tremendous achievement. The riders back on the road. It was a quiet start to the day, but they're beginning to step up the pace a little bit now. Heading up towards the only climb of the day of note. It's coming just before the 12-kilometre point. It's Trero. And there's still been a little bit of action, but the attacks all day have been caught. Bjorn Rees has been in the action all day, had a breakaway early on, so too did Aldag of the Telecom team, and Andy Hampson was in the early move, but he's been swept up as well. And now at 7 kilometres to go, it looks like we're starting an attack. Dmitry Konishev, who's trying to go clear. He too has also been testing the water today. Finally got away from the TBM team, which he was very unhappy riding with. He didn't seem to get on with the manager of that team, Case Priem, but now he rides for the Jolly team. You may remember him for winning the last stage in the Tour de France, the year that Jamaluddin Abdul-Japarov went down with such a collision on the barriers 2 years ago. The man who snatched the honours, rather surprising it was too. That was his second stage in that year too in the Tour de France. And now on this very, very technical descent, he's holding on. It looks as Stefano Della Santa has come up then, and Flavio Gipponi. 3 riders now racing down to Luigiani. I'll tell you, Konishev will take some beating. He did just 3 over a minute for the sprint. The main field aren't very far off the back wheels either. They're very, very close indeed. It looks as though Adriano Baffi is going to be robbed of a possible sprint win. So too Baldato, because these 3 are still clear. Dmitry Konishev, who really has been the man to spearhead the Russian appearances at the professional level of world cycling. You may remember when Greg LeMond won the world title in Chambéry, Konishev was up there too. 2 kilometres to go. And it's Konishev who made the breakaway and seems to be left to be doing most of the work. Flavio Gipponi, who is the Mercatoni Uno rider at the back of that line. Della Santa, the Mapai team, the other rider. And look at this, they're right on them now, and they're gambling. Konishev has got himself into second place, which is where he wants to be. Stefano Della Santa is leading up towards the lines. It's a very slight incline this, but the field are coming down very, very quickly behind them. Very, very quickly indeed, but Konishev has gone. Della Santa almost sat up but thought it's worth going again. He gets second, but Konishev gets the victory. Della Santa is second, Gipponi is third, and almost a collision there on the line. And that was the fast finishing Maurizio Fondriest, but it wasn't fast enough to beat Dmitry Konishev. The effort showing on his face, and he gets the stage victory in the Giro d'Italia. There's no doubt who the happy man is so far, though. Moreno Argentin is keeping his lead, everything working out just fine for him. Konishev winning the stage by 2 seconds. Gipponi was third. Fondriest it was fourth. Luc Leblanc fifth. Giorgio Furlan, who attacked, he finished in 5th place. Still that 26 seconds margin to Ugrimov, 35 seconds to Fondriest for Moreno Argentin. So to the 6th stage, 130 kilometres. The riders now from Villafranca Terina to Messina. We're heading now down towards the bottom end of the boot of Italy before we nip across onto the Isles of Sicily. This is a very, very beautiful place, as is all of the places down in the far south of Italy. go into now the Sicilian influence of the country. And of the 180 riders who set off from Porto Azzurro at the start of the Giro, 171 are still surviving here on the stage to bring them to Messina. 3 days they're facing now on the beautiful island of Sicily. And to get between the towns, well, if you're a member of the Festina team registered in Andorra, one of the smallest principalities in Europe, then you really can travel in style. This is the biggest team this year because Andorra, being so small, have had to take on many amateur riders so they could invite the top foreign riders onto the squad because of international rulings. Their best man is the Dutchman, Steven Rooks, the first man to win the King of the Mountains title in the Tour de France for Holland. And other riders like Eric van Lanker, sitting down there, who's from Belgium. And the leader of the team here, by the way, is Jos van Aert. And so the team here more or less for training for the upcoming Tour de France, and have yet to distinguish themselves in this year's Giro. Maybe they're enjoying the comfort a little bit too much. 130 kilometres on the menu, the small town of Vilfranca Terrina, as they race across to Messina as the crow flies. They're very close together, but not the way the riders are going today, and the conditions are extremely hot in the far south here. Temperatures expected to soar over 100 degrees, and it won't be to the liking of a lot of the riders. And this is Zenon Jaskula from Poland, 4th year now as a professional, turned professional rather late because until recent years, of course, the Eastern Bloc nations weren't allowed to turn professional. Luc Leblanc out on the attacks again, 18 seconds the gap. Surprisingly, Mercatoni Uno are trying to keep this race together. That's Leali in the front there, Bruno Leali. And it looks as though they have an interest in bringing Zenon Jaskula back into the field here. The other rider with Jaskula, I think, is Tonkov, but he's back in the field as well. As the Mercatoni Uno riders sweep by. Reputations mean nothing here. The big professional teams know what their aims are in the Giro, and their aim is to get Baffy up there for the stage wins into the last kilometre. Now let's see if they can, but this is the big figure of Guido Bontempi here, who once picked up 5 stage wins straight in the Tour of Italy in 1986, and he's going to hold it. Bontempi, despite his 33 years of age, gets it on the line, and Baffy was pipped there. Let's have a look at that again. That's Baffy coming on the shoulder there of Guido Bontempi. But Bontempi made it by half a length. And he gets the victory over Baffy. Bugno getting 3rd, Girotto 4th, Konichev in the hunt again in 5th place this time. Overall, the first day out on the island, no changes. Argentina winning, rather leading by 26 seconds from Ugrimov, Fondriest in 3rd place. Second day on the island and the 7th stage of the race, 242 kilometres. Couple of climbs taking the riders up to just under 1,000 metres. And if you enjoy fish, well, there's no finer place to come than to Sicily. And this swordfish here is just about to lose his head. The history of this fascinating island, when it stretches back 2,800 years, settled originally by the Greeks, but it's known plenty of rulers since then. The Normans, the Germans, the French, the Spanish, and the Neapolitans, they've all had their share, but it's a stunning place. The sunset in the Valley of the Temples probably is one of the most magical places in the world. Feel the history seeping out, and thank heavens Italy protects all of its temples, and there are plenty of them. And great reminders of the past. They've overseen many things, of course, and it's one of the most famous stopping off points for the Giro d'Italia, a race which goes back to the turn of the century and has been won largely by Italian riders. In fact, only 13 non-Italians, by the way, have won the Giro d'Italia. Indurain trying to alter that again this time out. Won it for the first time for Spain last year. Garibaldi began his drive to unite a modern Italy here, by the way, in 1860. And Mount Etna, not too far away, is Europe's highest active volcano. Let's hope it chooses to stay quiet for the next couple of days. So the riders now facing up the ride from Capodolando to Agrigento. And Greg LeMond riding a very, very quiet tour at the moment, but he's only 34 minutes. I know it sounds a lot, but 34 minutes off the lead, but a lot of time to have lost on what have been so far comparatively easy stages. The sprinters fighting out the finishes, and the man in the lead is Moreno Argentin. But right now we've got two riders out in front. This is the champion of Denmark, Bjarne Riis, up here at the front, and the rider who's come along with him for more than the ride is Coppolino. The rider's on the attack earlier on, Micheli, and Perini is up here as well. Well, Perini had a marvellous Tour de France last year, and he hopes he'll get in this year. It depends on a good ride really in the Tour of Italy for his team, because they'll be on a wild card selection, and he'll be conscious of that. Rider grabbing a drink here, as all of the riders are, is Da Silva, once leader of the Tour de France in Luxembourg. That was the year that we had the great problem with the man who forgot to go to the start house in time, Pedro Delgado, in the time trial at Luxembourg. There's Perini rather. And it seems to be a case of just give us a drink today, because temperature's up to 105 degrees. It is dry, it is very, very hot, and a lot of the riders simply can't race at the back of the field. They're just following along in a big bunch, and this is a very active little breakaway taking advantage of it. Coppolino is in trouble here, and they probably welcome that water, because Bjarne Riis has launched a great attack at the front. I think he's got rid of Perini. Here's the main field. 4 minutes 25 seconds. None of these riders really affecting at the moment the overall situation of the race. Very arid countryside. The three groups have answered the attack of Bjarne Riis on the Ariostia team, along with Argentin last year, but now Argentin has gone. It does seem that Bjarne Riis has been given his head a little bit more to ride his own sort of races, rather than be a super domestique in helping Argentin win his races. Really quite clearly anxious to keep this race away. He wants the ZG team in the Tour de France, and a wild card shot is still a possibility. Well, 300 metres out to go. Perini's gone early. He's not a great sprinter, and this would be Coppolino's best ever result here, but the man to watch out for is surely Bjarne Riis, who can deliver a good blow, and Riis comes now, and he comes very, very smoothly. No trouble at all for the champion of Denmark. He gets the stage win very easily from Coppolino, but the man who was worried about the weather, Andy Hampston.
Yeah, it was a sticker. We were looking at the scenery a little bit, but I tell you just can't race 3 weeks in conditions like this. It picked up quite a bit, you know, in the middle and towards the end, but it was hard.
And so the riders overall was a win for Bjarne Riis. Coppolino was second, Perini was third, but the main field coming in a minute 21 seconds back, and as a result no change at all overall amongst the top 7 men. 8th stage now, 140 kilometres, Agrigento to Palermo, the last day on the island, and 1 or 2 riders now will be glad to leave this island. The sun is simply a little bit too hot.
The heat kills you though, you know. It's every day gets worse and worse, you know. Like, nobody can attack in that kind of weather. Like the Sicilian people themselves don't work between 10 and 4, and we're asked to race in that weather, you know.
And here's one man who's done that in the past, one of the legends of Italian cycling, Gino Bartali. 4 times the Italian champion, 3 times the winner of the Giro, 4 times second in the Giro, and twice the winner of the Tour de France. The amazing thing was he won the national title in 1935. He won it again in 1952. And along with Fausto Coppi here, they had some great battles. Well, there are 3 top names in Italian cycle. The other one, of course, is Ercole Baldini. And now, of course, the names we talk about, Argentin, Bugno, Chipucci and Fondriest in this year's Giro d'Italia. This is Palermo, where the riders are now heading on the stage of 140 kilometres. And when they get here, again, the temperature is up. It's just on 100 degrees. They will then say goodbye and fly away from the island of Sicily, and I don't think they'll be too sorry. The breakaway formed today by Mario Chiesa. He's gone clear, and he's built himself a lead of 30 seconds over the group, which still contains Moreno Argentin and the rest of the men that matter in this year's Giro d'Italia. And this looks like Stefano Collier. Indeed it is. 66th overall in the race so far, as you can see by the little pink 66 there. Stefano Collier, an underrated rider who is steadily developing well in Italian cycling, always willing to have a go. Racing now through the parched countryside here of Sicily as we head off towards Palermo. It's on the northern coastline of the island, probably the best known, before the riders leapfrog away and up to Rome, where the race will recommence tomorrow. Well, Caligier has been picked up, and again it is the Mercatoni Uno team of Adriano Baffi who has brought the race right down again. But they've still got to pack up Mario Chiesa. He's a rider who's been seen in the Tour du Pont, for example, in the United States. He doesn't speak any English, but he certainly enjoys racing in America. But the dream is over. Mario Chiesa has been swept up by the field, and once again the big bunch has come together, and the Mercatoni Uno team have got control at the front. They come down towards the finish now in Palmelo. And in fact, the MG boys have got themselves company at the front now. And this is going to be the sprint between Baldato and Baffi by the look at it, the way they're lining up for the finish here. And looking desperately to see where Baldato is. Both Baldato and Baffi have won a stage already. And this is going to be a great battle for the line now. As they come up towards the finish, the sprinters are now taking control. In fact, Baffi is about 5 men down in the line at the moment. He's going to have to burst out of that. He's the rider in the mauve-coloured points jersey. And now here comes Baffi. León is also here, and Baldato. This is going to be a very, very close finish. This is Endrio León who's leading it out for the line now. But there comes Baffi coming up on the outside. Baldato is with him as they come right on the line. Baffi takes it. León held on there for second place, and Baldato had to be content with third. So the second stage win of the race for Adriano Baffi, with León there in second place and all of the riders given the same time. Consequently, no change overall at all. Argentine still very much the leader of the Giro d'Italia. The riders now facing up to a plain journey which will take them just to the outskirts of Rome for the resumption of the race. And for the mechanics and all of the followers, they face a 12-hour boat journey from Palermo to Naples before they will arrive on the outskirts of Rome. Very close to here, where the riders spend their only rest day of this year's Giro d'Italia. Well, you know what they say, all roads lead to Rome, and it's no exaggeration, the Romans invented the superhighways and they still exist under the layers of modern paving today. This is the famous Fountain de Trevi, where the tourists come and throw 2 coins over the shoulder, one to return to Rome and the other to make a wish. Really is a city for the romantics, and under the old Roman Empire all of these old buildings were once faced with marble. But like everything else these days, there are always in evidence around about the modern motor car, perhaps taking a little bit of the beauty away from the most visited site in Italy, the Colosseum, built in 80 AD and once held 50,000 fans for the contests of the lions and the gladiators. And the route today, the riders in fact heading across the route of stage 2 as they head away from Montelibretti to Fabriano, 219 kilometres on this 9th day. It goes in a northeasterly direction. Gianni Bugno in the World Championship jersey there, but the early attacker, Francisco Cabello from the Kelmer team, 24 years of age and 100th overall in the Giro d'Italia. Well, he got away 25 kilometres after the start this morning, and that's his lead at the moment, 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Well, you've always got to have the great adventurers in every stage race, and if you don't stick your nose out front, well, you'll never win a stage of any big race. Cabello now trying to build a lead, and the bunch, well, a little bit cooler the conditions, although the sun is still shining. Argentine there, happy in the Maglia Rosa, and keeping right up on the overall classification with his team. Not too far away, but you see it's Baffi's team all of the time who are setting the pace, but the one man who could spoil the party is here, Francisco Cabello. 33 kilometres to go and in the lead since the first 25 kilometres this morning, but he is slowing down. And the pace has picked up quite a lot now. And Gianni Bugno riding very close to the front today. He's been in the first 6 or 7 riders all of the time. He really does need to show his colours sooner or later because he's not having a great tour at all. And this is one of the small climbs on the stage today. The Dolomites coming nearer now day by day. And of course, so too is the first really big individual time trial. And Argentine is very, very conscious of that, knowing the ability of Miguel Indurain. Once again, the stunning countryside here now as we head up towards the northeast corner of Italy. And the pack still together, but it's all over. It's been a long, long breakaway. We're about 13 kilometers from the finish, and that would make the breakaway there of Cabello 181 kilometers in the lead. Chiesa now going clear again. Oh, 6 kilometers, 5.8 to be precise. And in fact, Mario Chiesa, who has attacked and attacked and attacked with absolutely no reward, nothing to show for it, he's gone again. It looks as though we've got two Ariosto riders going here. One is Giorgio Furlan. I think the little rider there was David Cassani, who is a good climber. There's Chiesa, 97th overall, 27 years of age. And Giorgio Furlan chasing him down, a much higher prospect in the overall situation. Giorgio Furlan here won the Flèche Wallonne and the Tour of Switzerland last year. Finished 19th overall in the Giro, and also won himself a stage. And he's yet to do that. He's tried once and failed. He's come up alongside Mario Chiesa now. So we've got two riders together. And the gap not very much at all, although the kilometres to go are closing down all of the time. But once again, the whole field here looking likely now to contest the finish. Chiesa and Giorgio Furlan, well, they're absolutely at the full effort here. Little look across there from Chiesa just to see what Giorgio Furlan was looking like, but it looks as though Chiesa's still got plenty left in him, but the field are closing down very, very quickly now as we come up towards the line. There's nothing in it here. The other rider who's gone on to the back there is Enrico Zaina from the Mercatoni Uno team. That's rather blunted the attack for the sprinter Baffy. He's on the same team, but Zaina's tailed off, and Giorgio Furlan is going. I don't think Chiesa will handle him. Well, he's tried and tried, Mario Chiesa, and it looks like he's going to be pipped, but second place is better than most results he's been getting. He's lost it in second place. Giorgio Furlan gets what is really his annual stage win here in the Giro d'Italia, and Zaina takes third place. So Giorgio Furlan, Ariosto, a former teammate of the race leader, Marino Argentine, he gets the stage win ahead of Chiesa. Zaina Manzoni, who's riding very well on the flat stages here, he's fourth, and Baldato is fifth. Argentino keeps his 26 seconds over Ugrimov, Fondriest third, Bugno fourth, Indurain fifth, and so the riders now coming to the 10th stage, the 28 kilometres time trial, and those seconds now should open up. It's only a question of which way will it be. Well, this is the place where the holidaymakers flood with its beautiful beaches here. Plenty of water sports. There'll be plenty of sport out on the open road today as the riders ride the race of truth. Miguel Indurain plotted his course to victory in the Giro d'Italia last year when he became the first Spanish winner by winning the time trials. He'd be very conscious of the fact that he was beaten, in fact, by Fondriest in the first one. This is Francesco Moser, world hour record holder. Moser 51.151. And Francesco Moser, well, like Fausto Coppi and Baldini, Felice Gimondi is one of the cycling greats. He still holds the world hour record, by the way. And he's also a previous winner of the Giro d'Italia. And that was in 1984. This is when he set the world hour record, though, on the 23rd of January 1984, when Moser did 51.151 kilometres. Well, that hour record will be under attack this year during the Tour de France by two British riders, while we now go back to the time trial here at Senegalia. Andy Hampston, one of the early starters, and the time to beat, well, it's slipping away. At the time he comes in, he's 9th best time. Armand de las Cuevas, who rides on the Benesto team of Indurain, a very underrated rider and a very, very good time trialist. He got closest to Indurain last year in the time trial, a big time trial that opened the time trial section of the Tour de France when he lost only 3 minutes to Indurain, but he finished second. De la Cuevas now should go top of the leaderboard if he's riding on form. Out on the course, the time checks are indicating he's the quickest. Stephen Roach, the winner of the Tour in 1987. Last couple of deep breaths and away. Roach is still enjoying a very good Tour of Italy and still has the possibility of a high finish if he comes to the Dolomites well. And here's De Las Cuevas coming up. There's the time to beat, and he's well inside Yascula's time as he comes in. 36.08, a 35-second beating. He's top of the leaderboard. Claudio Chiappucci, 10th overall at the moment. Knows that defending his handicap is the time trial, but you can see the crowd will help him if they can. Claudio Chiappucci must produce a good time trial to stay in the hunt here. This is Roach coming home, but he's slipping away. But it's not a bad time for Stephen. Top 10 at the moment. Out on the course with Chiappucci. And now his time is good. Very, very good indeed. Chiappucci has pulled off a very special ride here. He stayed very close to De Las Cuevas. Out on the course, third best time at the minute. And now the start of the man that everybody fears, Miguel Indurain. They all say it's not a question of will he win, it's always a question of by how much will he win. Now the time check out on the circuit, 22.19, and he's well clear. 21.45 for Miguel Indurain. Now Chiappucci coming up to the finish. It's been a good ride by Claudio Chiappucci. Yascula is still in third place, and that's the challenge from Claudio Chiappucci. Yascula is a very, very good time trialist, indicating a good ride here by Claudio Chiappucci. He'll get third best so far, 36 minutes 30.5. And when he recovers, I think he'll be very, very pleased with that performance. It will keep him in the hunt in the Giro d'Italia this year. Gianni Bugno, 4th overall. And even on this slight climb here, he doesn't look as though he's riding as smoothly as he can. Look at the contrast here now as Indurain starts to pick off the riders who started in front of him. And Miguel Indurain is never more in his element than when he's riding at these sort of speeds on the flat roads. He's passing Massimilio Lelli there of the Ariostia team. And down on the seaside, it looks as though Indurain really is in full cry. Now, is he registering here the foundation of his second Giro d'Italia? As Indurain comes up to the finish, De Las Cuevas, his teammate, is the man who still holds the leading position. But look at the time of Miguel Indurain. He is going to annihilate De Las Cuevas' time, that's for sure. So Miguel Indurain has come back to form. He's ridden the way he always rides the big tours, stays hidden in the bunch until he strikes in the time trial. And here at Senegalia, he's doing just that. It'll be best time when he arrives. 35.16.1, a massive 52 seconds improvement over De Las Cuevas. Well, here's Maurizio Fondriest. He pulled the surprise right out at the start at Portoferreo when he won the time trial. But it's not indicating on the time boards there he's going to do it now as the time trials get that little bit longer. And neither for Gianni Bugno. He's gone outside of Stephen Roach's time now. Roach in 12th place. And that's gone. And now he's moving down the lines. He hits the line now. 14th best for Gianni Bugno. And I think, you know, his Tour of Italy has ended just there. Now the pink jersey has the Maglia Rosa worked wonders on the shoulders here of Moreno Argentine. He's riding high. He's never been a great time trial rider. He's been more a roadman sprinter. He's up in 6th place at the time check there. This is Fondriest. And Maurizio Fondriest now heading down towards the finish. And I don't think we're going to see the surprise. In fact, the longer distance hasn't suited Maurizio. De Las Cuevas is the time he's aiming for, but that's going to go by the board about now. Gelfi is the next rider in 3rd place as Fondriest arrives to claim 3rd place. 57 seconds, though, slower than Miguel Indurain. The pink jersey out on the course. Fighting now to hold on to this jersey, but I can't see it. Fondriest, and the times are counting down as Argentine comes to the line. He's lost the lead, 36.16, the 4th best time even so for Argentine. That'll keep him high up in the overall, but it won't be in pink anymore. He's conceded a round minute to the new leader of the Giro d'Italia, Indurain. Argentine finishes 4th. Gelfi comes in there with a surprise 5th place, but again Miguel Indurain has claimed the lead after a time trial. Torriani there, the organiser of the race, applauding this wonderful man, Miguel Indurain, now the leader of the Giro by 22 seconds from Argentine, who really rode well to hold that place. Ugrimov has dropped down into 3rd slot. So the riders now facing up to their 11th stage, 184 kilometres. You can't get it much flatter than this, can you? and the riders will be very pleased about that. But the weather has changed indeed. Just look at this. Totally miserable conditions, and now would they like to be back on the island of Sicily with temperatures at 105 degrees. The riders are now in very, very miserable conditions indeed. It's the lot of a tour rider. I'm afraid you keep on going, whatever the weather will do to you. A small group, always willing to attack, has got 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And Fontanelli is one of the riders in this leading group. Over 4¼ hours in these terrible conditions here. And that's Fontanelli with Tibaldi on the far side, the Bottaro nearest the camera. The 3 riders who've got the lead here. None of them are going to affect the overall lead though. At the moment, as they come up towards the finish here now, it's going to be a thoroughly miserable stage for them. And Fontanelli is the rider who's making the plunge for home, and the Navigar rider. And Tibaldi is on the far right of our picture. Now he's switched over. Well, he's still on the right. So the sprint comes now from Fontanelli and Bottaro. Fontanelli is the rider who's going for it and looks as though he's going to get it. It's been terrifically heavy rain all day, but Fontanelli will still be a very, very happy man. The stage win in the Tour of Italy after 4 hours and 17 minutes in the saddle. But this is a stage with the bunch coming in just about 6 seconds behind. The pink jersey now of Miguel Indurain. That's a fitting name right now too, isn't it? And Indurain really not too keen, but 3 minutes and 29 seconds down, and there could well be a new pink jersey because Bruno Leali was in between that group. And in fact, Fontanelli gets the stage, and Bottari, Tibaldi and Manzoni again getting another 4th place. But there's a new leader tonight, and it really is a surprise. Bruno Leali gets the greatest moment of his career as he pulls on the pink jersey. He was in the chase group. He's got the lead by just 6 seconds ahead of Indurain, and Indurain has conceded the lead that nobody really expected him to do that. Indeed not, and 6 seconds isn't a lot now. 236 kilometres, this 12th stage from Doza, taking the riders to Asiago with just one climb coming towards the end at Fontanella. And like all of the towns, they always celebrate the passage of the Giro d'Italia. And there are many great veteran cyclists here who just love riding the bike. It's a fabulous country to go cycling in, and there's no guesses for which window that team is supported. Happy days for Bruno Leali this morning. Milizzi Fondriest having to put up with the thought that a rival Italian has won the pink jersey away from Miguel Indurain. One man would like to do just that, no doubt, was Gianni Bugno. So the field facing a long stage today, with the only real threat coming at the end. A second category climb which will lift the riders up to the finishing line. It could be a chance for somebody like Indurain to get his 6 seconds back and reclaim it, and that could be why Armand de las Cuevas has started the attacks today, to try and draw the string out of Leali's team and make them work to chase him down. This is Franco Coccioli, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, and Claudio Chiappucci. So the riders now beginning to relish the thought of approaching the Dolomites. Still a couple of days away. Indurain is sitting there in number 2 order. And there is Bruno Leali. It's amazing, isn't it? But once you pull on a race leader's jersey, what a better race you ride. He's now riding at the front. He's watching the moves. He's going to hang on to that lead for as long as possible. 18 seconds is the gap to this small leading group, with Coccioli up here. De las Cuevas is now tagged onto the back there, in fact, of Claudio Chiappucci. This is a good breakaway. There's little Claudio, who's had his great moments spoiled by Miguel Indurain in previous tours of Italy. And De las Cuevas now reverting to the role of policeman there, because Chiappucci is far too dangerous to work with, and Coccioli's gone back into the field. And we've got the Mercatoni Uno riders. I think it's Baldato there. Now Bordelani, sorry, Fabio Bordelani, who has brought the riders up to Coccioli. De las Cuevas will certainly speak Spanish. I'm not too sure whether he speaks Italian, because he's normally in the command of this rider here, Miguel Indurain, who's having to do a lot of work as well now. And that's a strange sight to see Indurain pacing the leader of the Tour. It normally would be the other way around. As the riders continue their climb up, it looks as though Chiapucci may have made a great move here. De las Cuevas is hanging on, but doing nothing at all to assist the attack. About 15 kilometres to go to the finish, and we're on this climb now, which will take them up to 745 metres at Fontanella. Marvellous crowd, the north of Italy here, the fans loving their sport immensely. And there's nothing better for them than, of course, to see their man Claudio Chiapucci setting the pace, and now the chase down coming here from Leali's team. Stephen Roach coming up, and in fact Stephen Roach has got things to say here to the riders here of Leali, and I would think it would be something like, why are you chasing? Because Indurain is the man who should do the chasing. And because, and in fact Roach almost fell there. There was a clash of wheels, and that's Indurain just fending Roach off. But I think, Roach has a point, because Miguel Indurain is the rider who should really pick up the pace, although the unwritten rule might be that the leader of the Tour should do the chasing. And Chiapucci now finding that De las Cuevas also will not work, and I think they can see the field coming up here, and it's all over. Well, that's a shame. But that was a dangerous attack, and it's good to see that they are willing still to attack the leaders of this Tour, and especially Miguel Indurain. But it's all over, and now the counter-attacks are coming. They're just over the top of this little climb, but it continues to be hard all the way to the finish. Now there's a number of attacks going off the front. Well, it's a good chance now. Leali has pulled this race back together with the help of the Benesto riders, but he had to finish it off himself. Konishev is going clear here at the front. He's already got one stage win. He might be inspired by the fact he once won the Amateur Tour of Italy back in 1988 before he turned professional the following year and took the silver medal in the World Championships behind Greg LeMond. And Bunyo here too, watching all of the time, riding quite a solid race, but seemingly unable to get away from the field. Well, I think Konishev has got clear of this field. There's plenty of riders trying to catch him up. But there's a split in the main field here. No, in fact, Konishev is at the front of what is a split of about 20 riders. And this is Fondries now and Coccioli, and in fact that is Konishev trying to get on to the two leaders, but this is a good sprint from Maurizio Fondries here now as he sees the finish. He hasn't won since the time trial on day one, but he's got the lead around the corner. So too has Coccioli gone with him. Coccioli's gone wide and sat up as Konishev takes it right on the line. Dimitri Konishev pulls the win out right on the line there, and that is a great win for him. Win number 2 for Dimitri Konishev. And it'll do nothing to alter the overall, though. Bruno Leali tonight will keep his pink jersey for another day, and at times that didn't look possible. Stephen Roach here has also ridden well as he stays in the front group. Things going according to plan so far for him, I think.
We'll wind it back again for you. Stephen, that was a lot harder stage than everybody expected to. What do you think of Chiapucci on the climb?
They had an excellent go, but unfortunately, like, they call Chiapucci the devil. The devil has no friends, only bad friends. And unfortunately, like the team of Leali who were defending the jersey, they rode like devils behind them, So it's very unfortunate for Chiapucci because today Indurain wasn't on a great day today, and he could have gained like an easy minute on him today, easily.
So really, to try and get rid of him, all the teams have got to try and attack him in the mountains. And today, the Mercatoni team played into his hands.
In Italy, there's 2 races. There's a race for the first place and a race for the first Italian. So that's the Bruno Leali and the Mercatoni Uno. They're riding in the second race.
What about a race for the first Irishman?
That's one already, yeah.
You rode very well today for the first time in the mountains. How do you feel for the next few days that are going to come up?
Well, not too confident really, I hope to be there, but for how long I don't know, it's all the same problems when I hit the mountains or in time trials, like I said, my back problem. I get through one day and 2, So hopefully the day that is hard, I will get through it.
Well, like you said today, Miguel Indurain looked as if he was in trouble. Do you think other riders will have seen that and they'll go for the big attacks?
Definitely, but who will attack? Like Bunyo didn't seem the best today either, and Bunyo has to attack. So if Chiapucci attacks on his own, it's not going to help anybody. If Bunyo must attack, Amstein must attack, like the other guys must attack,
Chance missed perhaps then for the riders to steal a march over Miguel Indurain, but Dmitry Konishev delighted with his second win. And a second day in pink too for Bruno Leali. And he really couldn't have suspected this would happen to him in this year's Giro. Still got his 6 seconds lead over Indurain, 15 seconds over Fondriest. But the high roads are now with us and 2 mountain climbs today, and here's Paul Sherwin to tell us more.
Well, the first days in the mountains of a major tour is always very strange because the riders have had 10 days on the flat. They've been using big gears and they have to look for their mountain legs. One man who had his mountain legs very quickly yesterday was Claudio Chiappucci, but the gradient wasn't as steep as it's going to be over the next 2 days. The next 2 days are going to be very, very hard climbs, and that's when the real climbers will come to the front. It's not necessarily the weekend when the Giro d'Italia is going to be won, but for some riders it's definitely going to be lost. And riders like Chiappucci, Bugno and Fondriest are going to have to try and attack Miguel Indurain and put him into difficulty. Many people thought he was suffering on the climbs yesterday, and if he was, this is the weekend when they have to try and dethrone him.
And that, Paul, is absolutely right. 2 climbs on the 217 kilometre stage, and this is the little breakaway which has formed 1 minute and 7 seconds clear. And riding right near the front of this group now is Peter Ugrimov. A very good move by him, and should cause concern to Miguel Indurain and Bruno Leali, still in the pink, quite literally. And this is a very, very strong chasing group now. It's the advanced party because the peloton has split. Luc Leblanc of France coming back into the picture now the roads are growing up. And Hamston, Lely and Ugrimov are the 3 riders gone there. Good move this by Andy Hamston, getting his confidence back a little bit. He's always enjoyed his tours of Italy. First American to win the race in 1988, when he also won 2 stages. And he was 3rd in 89 and 5th last year, and riding well on these early climbs, over the top first. Now it's up to Ugrimov and Lely to try and keep the pace as we head on now to the Passi Ores. And the gap is 1 minute and 12 seconds. This is Coccioli now trying to get across to the group. He's had a bit of a problem on that climb, and Coccioli now trying to rejoin that big group which is trying to form behind these 3 leaders as we go down. The pink jersey has dropped, by the way. He's lost 1 minute and 12 seconds. That's the latest. And not surprising too. So it's Indurain who is now the leader on the road. But Coccioli has rejoined and is getting back into the chase group which contains Miguel Indurain. Time for a drink here. Former winner of the Giro d'Italia and lying 9th overall this year. Well, what goes up comes down, you know, and it's another skill indeed to be able to descend at ending up to 80 kilometres an hour, 50 miles an hour on these roads in Italy. They're in many cases much more difficult than the roads in France for the Tour de France. They're narrower, they twist a lot, and you've really got to stay alert. Minute 12 seconds, still the breakaway. For many people who come to Italy, they feel that the Dolomites are the most beautiful mountain range here in Europe. They're not perhaps as high as the Alps, but they're certainly steep and tortuous. It looks as though Leali's group now is dropping away from it. We're now on the climb here of the Passo dell'Erbe, and Hamston, Ugrimov and Massimiliano Lely is the rider from Ariostoia. And again, this is a superb move here, especially by Peter Ugrimov. Remember that he was the rider that won stage 3 in Toscano and moved up to 2nd place overall. And Indurain would do well to keep an eye on him, because again, it's an opportunist move to try and cause a reaction from Benesto. And this is the group here, which contains the Mercatoni Uno team, and with it the pink jersey, and still on the wheel of Miguel Indurain. Well, he looks good. Chiappucci is there, and there is Argentin, and we're very pleased with the fact that his teammate out on the front, Luc Leblanc. It's still quite a sizable chase group. And coming up towards the top of the Passo dell'Erbe, 31 kilometres remaining. Well, they won't know too much about Peter Ugramov, although he does a lot of racing here in Italy. He's not Italian, of course. He's doing the ride of his life, but they all know Andy Hampsten. And coming up towards the top of the climb, and Hampsten again in the lead, 2,004 metres. And the best crowd so far, I think. The gap is a little more than 1 minute back to the Indurain pink jersey group. And it looks as though they're content to let Andy Hampsten do all of the pacemaking. Peter Ugramov in second place as they come through the crowds. Hampsten feels his chance is good now to reclaim a little bit of time he's lost over the last couple of weeks. 1 minute 35 seconds is the latest time check as they come up towards the summit. And Andy has really made all of the pacemaking up here. And Erlelli is in third place where he's been for much of the climb. Now the long drop down. The hills aren't over yet. Gianni Bugno. And still the pink jersey is hanging onto the wheel there of Miguel Indurain. He's not giving him an inch. This has been a good climb for him, and it is amazing, but when you pull on a race leader's jersey like this, you become a second rider. Superb riding by Liali. And his team also have risen to the occasion too. They've really kept this chase group together. They've set all of the pace, but of course they are doing all of the pacemaking and giving Miguel Indurain an easy ride. It doesn't look like an easy ride. You can see the face of those Gerard Rouet just ahead of Indurain. He's the faithful lieutenant. And again, Liali dodging round riders to keep stuck onto that back wheel there of Miguel. And there's the clock. It's come back a little bit. 1:35 over the top is the gap. So it's nothing yet, but Ugramov is the man in pink. He's up the road. And I must say that the Mejia team of Moreno Argentin have had a great tour so far. It all began so well for them when Argentin won that opening stage. Then Ugramov moved himself right up into second place at the end of stage 3. Now, a very, very difficult descent, this one. The way down. And quite clearly, Ugramov is not a good descender. And in fact, I think it is Massimiliano Lelli who is doing the pacemaking down the front with Andy in the middle. Brakes full on here for yet another hairpin bend. Thankfully the roads are dry. And Ugramov is fighting here to keep them in sight, so they're going down so well. This is the chase group, and the gap is beginning to close. That's Rouet for Benesto leading the charge down. The gap is down to 1 minute and 15 seconds. Las Cuevas having a very good Giro as well. And there's a problem. Maurizio Fondriest, third overall, or at least he was, 15 seconds off the pace, and he's got a problem, a rear wheel puncture. And that was in the group containing Indurain where he's come from. But he's still got a problem here. Either the brakes are rubbing, I think it's the brakes. And he's off again. Well, he's losing time, and this is rather unfortunate for Maurizio. And the team car appears to have gone on. But he's off again. Now he's going to get back into his rhythm. There's still a reasonable distance to go. Somewhere about 25 kilometres to go for the finish. Well, this has been the day of Andy Hampsten. He's been left to do most of the heavy work in this leading group. And Ugramov is back after the descent, and it looks as though Fondriest is also beginning to step up the pace a little bit, but there's still a long empty road ahead of him. There's no sign of the Indurain group. Well, I suppose we should really call it the Liali group, shouldn't we? He's the leader at the moment. Oh dear me, well the motorbike getting a little bit in the way there, and that's a shame for Fondriest because he's now can get into the tail of the group here if he's lucky. He's starting to see the riders he left. We've gone back up to the leaders now. Ugramov now prepared to do the chase because the kilometres are coming down. Just inside 13 to go, and Ugramov really must sense now he could be pulling off the coup of the day and become the new leader here. But the gap is coming down. It's holding 1:16. Miguel Indurain, for once looking a little bit as though he really is under pressure. And Leali sitting there watching, having a great day out. He could well defend that pink jersey if he can keep this up and rely heavily on Indurain to close the gap down. .52 seconds. So, to be anticipated, I suppose, but it is coming down. Now, can they salvage just enough for Ugrimov to get the race lead? Veli. And this is Leali. Now he's got to the front. He's feeling confidence is growing with him now, because this was the day the axe should have fallen, and he's saying, no, it's not. He's starting to come back into this race very, very much now. He's taken over the pacemaking. Indurain back into third place. And Miguel must be impressed by this rider, who's possibly the oldest rider in the race, Bruno Leali. His great day came in '87 when he was the Italian champion. And Ugrimov has given a lot away here. He was 22 seconds off yellow, still is in the, off pink rather, he still is in the pink jersey if he can hold it. Lely is also there. Hampston has had a great day out. This was the old Andy Hampson, the man who won the Giro d'Italia back in 1988. Bunyo's gone now from the group. Now surely they can't let Bunyo go. He'll cause a reaction which might end this breakaway. So Bunyo has snapped the elastic and there's a reorganisation here. Banesto, little bit of panic. The Banesto team led by Rouet, the French member. And look at this. Gianni Bunyo, 18 seconds back to the chase group. They're all closing in, but Bunyo's reached them first. And Bunyo is not even going to give them a chance to get their breath because he's going straight by. Hampston's latched on. Gianni Bunyo, well, he looks at last like the man who won the world title for the last 2 years. He's growing in confidence as well as this race goes into the mountains. And this would be a marvellous result for him. It would give him back all of his old courage if he could just pull off the stage win now. But the field are closing in very, very fast indeed as we approach the finish. Andy Hampston up here at the front. The four are just about hanging on. Ugrimov over to the right of our picture, but Indurain is bringing them up and bringing them up very, very quickly indeed. De Las Cuevas is up there too. The Banestos have had to work hard for this one, but amazingly it's coming back together almost on the line. 6¼ hours in the saddle, and Bunyo is waiting for somebody to open up the sprint, and Bunyo won't do it. As Bunyo tries now to coax somebody into the lead, Indurain himself is coming on the far right, and he's got Argentine tucked in nicely. Leali is there too. Who would have believed that? But Argentine now surely is the man to watch. He's in second place as they start for the line. Now Argentine is going. Moreno Argentine is going, and this is going to be a wonderful stage win for Moreno. Having seen Ugrimov caught, he cleaned up for the Mechia team, almost the reverse of what happened on stage 3. And now it is a victory, the second one of the Giro for Moreno Argentine. And that's a reminder he's still very much in this race overall.
Andy, that was an incredible stage today. You tried exactly what you wanted to do to try and get a little bit of time before we got to the bottom of the climb, and then...
Yeah, it worked out better than I thought. My Motorola teammates were in a break. There's all these little breaks going, but usually it just stays together. But we got in a nice group of 15 or 20, and I had 2 teammates. They did a lot of work, so we had a good lead on the climb. And the other group came up to us, but I knew that they'd be pretty tired. And in the book, it said it was going to be 14%, and it was never more than 8 or 9. But you know, I attacked after, oh God, I don't know, 5 or 6 kilometers on the uphill with Ugrimov and Lely, but Lely wasn't working. So the 2 of us were doing all the work. You know, and it was still a good situation. We were picking up some time, but I guess it never really broke up behind us.
It was difficult, I think, having Ugrimov with you because he was only 5th in the overall standings this morning, so they had to chase behind, and the team of Mercatoni did an incredible job to chase you down.
Yeah, they're very strong. And, you know, the race worked out their way, but, you know, it's good for me to go out there and do my race. I have to recover for tomorrow. It's even a better opportunity for me tomorrow because today was really only one long climb and a couple of short ones. But tomorrow will be a real bit of work.
Well, these are happy days in the twilight years for 35-year-old Bruno Leali, pulling on a pink jersey on the day he was supposed to have lost it here in the Dolomites. Moreno Argentine winning the stage by Lely, and Lely not working, as Andy Hampson told us, profiting there by taking second place on the stage, Buño getting third. Overall, Leali 6 seconds ahead of Indurain, Argentine having a magnificent tour, up in third place, Fondriest is fourth. But it's showdown time now in the Dolomites, the longest stage in the highest mountains, 250 kilometres. And surely now something will be decided. And Bruno Leali, well, I wonder what sort of night's sleep he had, thinking of that pink jersey on the end of his bedpost. 4 first category climbs during the stage, 1 second category climb, and over the last half of the stage it's all uphill. One man who won't be afraid of that is the King of the Mountains leader, Claudio Chiappucci. Gianni Buño still very much remains a challenger in the Tour of Italy this year. And Franco Coccioli, memories of his 1991 victory. And then the rider who succeeded him, Miguel Indurain. But the mountains, you know, are not the friends of everyone. Here's Paul Showing with Stephen Roach.
Well, Steve, yesterday was the first day in the mountains, and you were a little bit suspect. You didn't know exactly how you were going to react, but you were still there at the end.
Yeah, well, I'm sure how I'm going to react. Yesterday was a fairly hard day in the mountains. You can see it in the end, but today is a very, very hard day in the mountains. No, it's even too long for this kind of a race, I think, you know, but that's the way it goes. We're here now, we got to carry on, you know. It'll depend, I think, on how they go over the first hill, and then also the Marmolada, which is very, very hard.
What do you think is going to happen? Because so far, Indurain's team hasn't really been put under pressure, because the Italians have all been fighting to try and get the pink jersey or to keep hold of it, like Bruno Leali's team.
It's very strange, like, but when you look at the general classification for the moment, the first 20 riders are on in about 2 minutes, so, and if those riders can go away, and if one of those riders go away, who's going to ride behind? Like, today a team is not really good to you unless you have a couple of strong guys. But like yesterday, the Mercatone Uno surprised everybody, so maybe today they will surprise us.
What about your teammate, Claudio Chiappucci? There's a big crowd here today, and he's a showman.
Yeah, well, like yesterday, even with the crowd yesterday, he couldn't perform. He wasn't on a good day, but it was better having a bad day yesterday than having it today. So I think today he'll be, hopefully anyway, he will be able to do something. But if he goes well, it'll hurt everybody, you know. That's a problem.
Well, Claudio Chiappucci, of course, did that wonderful breakaway last year to nearby Sestriere, also in Italy in the Tour de France, which put him amongst the annals of the great mountain climbers of the Tour de France. This is a tough one today, though, and Bruno Leali must be a worried man as he pedals away with his Mercatone Uno team all around him. And this is Franco Vona here, Eduardo Chozas. These are the early attacks. 123 kilometres now, approximately halfway into the stage. Hampston is here again, so his leg's not hurting too much after yesterday's ride. Number 46 there is León Madouas, who's turning out to be a good new rider on the French Castorama team. And this is Pulnikov at the front now, alongside his teammate Chiappucci. Hampston knowing the wheels to follow. Well, these are the lower slopes, the first time up the Pordoi Pass. They've got to come up it once more yet, and it's still a long way to go. Eduardo Chozas following the wheel of Vona. And now Chiappucci here is setting the pace. Pulnikov is the rider alongside him, and it looks as though Vona has got rid, in fact, of Chozas. And a massive crowd here, without doubt the finest point of the day to come and watch the race, because they come up it twice. Franco Vona, so often a champion of the Alps in the Tour de France, in his own way, is now having to try and stay away from the chase group here. Zenon Jaskula is in this group, so too Pavel Tonkov in the white jersey, Miguel Indurain, there's Luc Leblanc, Moreno Argentine, Fondriest, there's some good names in that leading group. And the man with 91 kilometres to go, facing this corridor of noise on the climb here, the Pordoi Pass. First time up, magnificent crowd. And a very orderly one indeed too for the Italian Tifosi. And coming up towards the top, Franco Vona's going to have no trouble at all in being the first rider over the top of the climb. And that must be a good feeling. Time to start the descent, just taking a final drink on board before he goes down. This is the others on the way up. Chozas is in between, don't forget, he'll go over in second place. And this is the battle here, with Andy Hampston moving up for King of the Mountain points, and Chiappucci quickly taking him. Pulnikov dropping back a little bit. It looks to be around 35 seconds as they come up towards the summit. Andy Hampston goes over the top. He'll be in third place from Chiapucci. 38 seconds it is. Chiapucci just checks over his shoulder, as he so often does, to see what's happening, and I think he said something there to Andy Hampston, maybe to let the group come back together. And this is the group containing Liali, and look at the gap, almost 2 minutes down, so he's in a little bit of trouble now, Bruno Liali, but he's experienced enough. It's a long way still to go. He knows they've got some hard climbs to come. It might be early days to start panicking. So Liali starting the descent, and in this group too there is Gianni Bugno, so he's almost 2 minutes off the pace as well. Make the way down towards the bottom and the town of Araba. And still, it looks like Bona's still got the lead on his own. He's pulled the cap on now to keep his head warm on the way down. Chozas is still chasing him. Well, this really is a tough circuit. And now Claudio Chiapucci in a reforming bunch here. Had a chat there with Stephen Roach, and it looks as though they're starting to move around all of the Carrera riders. It might be they're trying to organise something. Indurain is in this group, and in fact there has been a couple of riders bridge the gap on the descent there, because there's a small group forming at the front. This is Dmitry Konishev here. Eduardo Chozas is here. Fondriesta's come up. Now there's an interesting move, and there's a full list of the group. The other man is Roberto Conti, joining the first attackers at Vona and Chozas. 22 there is Chozas, and in fact this is Gianni Bugno who's trying to bridge the gap. Well, Bugno has come across a gap of some 2 minutes to join the group containing Indurain and Co, and he's gone clear of them at the start here of the Marmalada climb. It's the first time we've really seen Bugno take the bull by the horns and have a go. This is the group he's left. There is Chiapucci. Pavel Tonkov is here. Hampston. And they don't look too worried as they start the long climb of the Marmalade. It's a real hard climb. There's Stephen Roach there explaining something of the climb. Zenon Yasku is here, and the pink jersey has got back as well. That's a superb ride. Looks a little bit the worse for wear for it, but nonetheless. And it looks as though Bugno is coming back as well. He's been picked up here by Chiapucci, number 31, and Miguel Indurain. Pavel Tonkov, the Russian rider, former junior world champion. Best young rider in this race 1 year ago, and in the white jersey again, and they've gone right past Bugno. Nobody even looked at him because they're still the leaders up front. Bugno never made contact with them, and in fact he's losing contact with this forward group. So Bugno is losing contact. The man who once reached his world #1 ranking because of his formidable riding in the Giro d'Italia is now seeing the race ride away from him. That really is a sad sight. He made his effort today, and it hasn't paid off. He's blown. And the Marmalade is a tough little climb. As we see Conti, Ugrumov, Pulnikov and Lely here. And this is the group that's forming at the front. Vona appears to have dropped back. And Pavel Tonkov hanging on to two very good pairs of wheels in the shape of Indurain and Chiapucci. But the whole field is splintered on this climb of the Marmalade. It's turning out to be the decisive climb of the day, I think. Liali has also been shattered out of this group. And we're now looking at the new leading group here. Lely is up here, so too is Conti. Tonkov has come up, Chiapucci, Indurain, a very select little group indeed. They've picked them all up on the climb. And now we climb up towards the wet conditions on the top of the Marmalade. The Basque flags are waving. They're waving for Miguel Indurain. And Indurain is now in his element. This I find a surprise, because here's a man who loves the sun, and he's now taking over the Tour of Italy on a very, very wet day indeed. Concentration on Miguel as he comes up towards the summit. And he's not interested in any help from anybody. 47 kilometers to go when they get to the top of this climb, and Miguel Indurain is now where he wants to be, at the front. And coming up here with him, we've got Chiapucci and Massimiliano Lely. They've still got to go back up the Porto Pass yet. Very difficult descent indeed. Maurizio Fondriest is also chasing behind now, having dropped a little bit. 51 seconds he's gone over the top with Andy Hampston. And Leali has gone over 3 minutes and 25 seconds back, but this is Ugrimov on the chase now, and Ugrimov trying to get back on terms now with Indurain. You can forget about Bruno Leali, almost 4 minutes behind. And there is the difference now, 1 minute and 8 seconds between the leaders and the next group on the road. Rider number 53 here is Roberto Conti. Very good climber indeed, as he's proving today. And now the rider setting the pace, Miguel Indurain. There's the full composition of this leading group. Pulnikov, Lely, Indurain, Kipucci, Tonkov, Ugrimov, who's just joined, having bridged that 15 seconds gap. And he's turning out to be quite a sensation, isn't he? This is the second group, led by Maurizio Fondriest. Andy Hampton is also here. Nelson Rodriguez on the mobility team is the rider in second place. Well, Fondriest is not out of this yet. Still very much in with a chance. And these are the leaders. Lely at the front, white jersey at the back of Pavel Tonkov, Kipucci and Fondriest now. And in fact, the Motorola team car here, Henny Kuiper, is shouting on to Andy Hampston to try and close this gap. It's crucial. 6.5 hours the riders have now been in the saddle, and the weather has closed in dramatically. And these are the riders who are now shaping the Giro d'Italia. They've shadowboxed for nearly 2 weeks, and now it looks like showdown time. Number 55 is Lely, who's had a great day out. And the weather has been atrocious. Pulnikov is also a little bit of a surprise in this leading group now, but he knows Ugrimov very well indeed. They used to race together when they were Russian amateurs. And Fondriest, it seems, is the rider doing all the work, and I'm not too sure whether, in fact, Andy Hampston is a little bit tired. 32 seconds the gap, so they're coming back slowly. This race isn't over yet for these boys in the chase. This has been a very, very difficult last 2 hours for the riders. Cat and mouse tactics, but Indurain has watched and waited and made his attack. Bridging the gap to the leaders on the Marmolada climb. He's now into his tempo and enjoying the rather inclement weather. Kipucci, scoring well in the King of the Mountains competition today, is content to follow there in second place. Well, he's in third place at the moment. Ellie is up here. It seems certain now that the winner of this year's Giro d'Italia is going to come from one of this group, with the odds-on favourite being last year's winner, Miguel Indurain. And the influx of the former Soviet riders, Pavel Tonkov and Ugrimov and Pulnikov, as they come up now, 3 kilometres to the summit here. And nobody helping Indurain. There's no sign either of Indurain cracking. Ugrimov sitting at the back and climbing to what will be a second place overall tonight for sure. And a solid one at that. And the crowd have enjoyed the day until now, till these rains came down. Now it's made this race very difficult indeed, not just for the riders, I might add, but also for the television camera crews to keep this race going. Well, I often wonder if the riders ever hear the shouts, which are almost down their ears, when they're suffering like they surely are on the climb here. So they keep the climb going. The Italians trying so desperately now to keep the race in their camp, but it's going away from them. It looks like Spain, for only the second time in Tour history, are going to have a leader tonight in Miguel Indurain again. Some 20 kilometres to go now as we come over the top of the Porto Pass for the final time. And Indurain this time is in control. The clock starts there. We still have a short climb to come before, about 8 kilometres from the finish. This is a really vicious day. Here's the Fondriest group coming up, and it looks like they're going to be the best part of the minute behind. That's a lot of bridging to be done. Fondriest has done most of the pacemaking on the climb. And just now I don't see Andy Hampston in this lead group, or chase group. I I think Hampsten may have taken a packet on the climb of the Port d'Oy second time up. Fondriest comes up towards the summit. We've got 6 leaders have gone through. And it's 63 seconds now to the Fondriest group, led here by Maurizio Fondriest. Nelson Rodriguez, I think, just came up behind Fondriest. And the next group over was in fact Luc Leblanc, 2 minutes 52 seconds down as we're on the way down here now. Very, very treacherous descent indeed. This isn't for the nervous. Gianni Bugno, who's blown up without a shadow of a doubt, is in fact in a group with Moreno Argentin, 4 minutes and 13 seconds behind. They've come over the top. And this is Bruno Leali. He's in the next group. 5 minutes plus it's going to be for him. So Bruno Leali's 3 days in pink are over, but he'll never forget them. Almost 6 minutes down, in fact, for Leali's group. Vladimir Punikov here, 14th overall in the race, now leading on the descent. But he's taken some risk to come down there and drop the group, and Indurain is not going to be in for that game, I don't think. Into Araba now. 12 kilometres left to go. That's the Campolongo climb still to come. And now they're just starting it. And again, immediately, Chiappucci attacks. And just look at the marking now by Miguel. Miguel is not going to let him go. These are the 2 riders who fought out the Tour of Italy for the past 2 years. Or rather, the past year. Because last year, although in fact Chiappucci has finished second the last 2 years, it was to Miguel Indurain last time out. But he's gone again. Such a determined rider, and quite clearly Chiappucci is feeling on good form today. A bad day yesterday, this was the day to have a good one. Indurain is giving nothing at all. Pulnikov is ahead by 22 seconds, but for the moment they're not going to worry about that. Tonkov still sitting in the back of this group. And you can hear the shouts of bravo, and indeed he must have taken some risks to get away on the descent to the Port d'Oy. Now he's trying to stay away on the climb of Campolongo. And here's the carrot that they hope will draw the sting of Indurain and allow the springboard for Claudio Chiappucci, a teammate, to jump away of Pulnikov. But they've caught him. And it looks as though Lely has also been dropped now. And there he is. And there's Tonkov. They've both been detached because of the constant attacking over the top of the Campolongo. And Chiappucci is led ahead of Indurain, Pulnikov. And a 6-second gap back to Lely and Tonkov. Ugrimov has been dropped yet again on the climb, has come over 22 seconds down. He's got to fight back. And Fondriest is over 2.5 minutes back. Hampsten even further. 4 kilometres to go to the finish. Well, this has been a real battle out in the Dolomites today. And it's been the names we expect. Indurain waited, but he pounced, and Chiappucci was able to go with him. Well, I say the names that we expect, but really, Ugrimov has passed the test with flying colours. He's a name we're going to see in the future now, I'm sure of that. Sensational performance. He's been off the back like a yo-yo on the climbs. How can he get back? And finish up in second place tonight. As we race down towards the finish of Kovara, the crowds are thinned out a little bit because the rain now is quite torrential, not like the weather when we rolled away from here 7.5 hours ago. And how can Indurain finish off with the victory? Taking the right hander very, very precariously indeed, and I don't blame them because those roads will be glacial. And in fact, we've got Pulnikov in second place behind Indurain here. Pulnikov, and I think behind Pulnikov is Chiappucci. No, he's not. Chiappucci is gone. He's taken his chance. He started on a very, very big gear, but he's got it going now. And Claudio Chiappucci completes a marvellous day for him. And there's a bit of daylight there. He may even get a second or so on that group if they give it to him. Chiappucci is going to take the stage here, and that's the first big win for him in the Tour of Italy. Claudio Chiappucci gets it. Terrific victory. And Claudio Chiappucci, remember now the words of Stephen Roach just 7.5 hours ago. He said if Chiappucci was feeling good, he'd hurt everybody. Well, he's done that now. Chiappucci winning indeed. They gave him 1 second over Indurain, Pulnikov, Tonkov, Lely and Ugrimov, finishing just 20 seconds back. And so what a great result then for Claudio Chiappucci. An even better one, though, for Miguel Indurain. He's now back in the pink by 49 seconds. Ugrimov did get second place. Chiappucci up to third. Lely rode well today in fourth. And just look at that, 3 former Soviet riders now in the top 6 positions. And so, still a few mountains on the stage here, the 15th stage, but it hasn't been a race, you know, for Greg LeMond.
But also, I think when you come into a race like this, if you're not 100% prepared physically, the difference keeps getting bigger between the riders who are really well prepared, at the start, and the guys, like for me, I come in really not at my best, and I continue to get more and more tired while the guys who are well prepared continue to stay at the same level, and the difference becomes really big about the third week. But then after a little bit of rest, this is a great workload, and your body usually responds to it, but it needs rest to adapt to it.
Well, Andy, just catching up on the news from yesterday?
Finding out what happened once I was out of there.
It was a pretty hard weekend for you, though, because you were away in the breakaway on Saturday, and then you had the big attacks yesterday from Chiappucci, Bugno.
Yeah, you know, I had a good race Saturday, but didn't end up with any time. I'm glad I did it, but I could have used a bit more reserves on the huge day on Sunday. But you know, I limited my losses as much as I could, but you know, the race went up the road without.
Well, maybe there'll be better things today. Greg LeMond obviously riding on his reserves here, which is something he doesn't like to do. 258 kilometres, this 15th stage, taking them away from Kovara to Lumetzana. And now, the man in yellow is Miguel Indurain. Goes up to 9,500 feet, so it has an elevation in 2 jumps of 1,200 feet. And as you can see now, they're beginning to reel in the courageous but rather silly Laurent Roux, who is now going to be swept up by what is left of the 98 riders who started this event. And in this breakaway still we have Mike Engelman and the other American rider, Andy Hampston, the only 2 American riders in this group. Lance Armstrong, a non-starter early today, in fact didn't make the journey to Colombia at all, reportedly because he was unhappy with his form after having a rather rough time in a 2-day race in Colorado, which was competed among others by Miguel Indurain, who he says has form which is too good. So Lance, the winner of the San Sebastian Classic, not here. Now then, Laurent Roux has spent 9 laps, or the best part of 9 laps out front. He's about to be swept up. Claudio Chiappucci is setting the pace here. Not surprisingly, perhaps, the Colombian riders are all lining up behind Claudio Chiappucci. The pressure is on them because there were great fears expressed by almost every country coming, and really it's a very small field with only 98 starters here in Colombia, not only of the course but of the country itself. And yet these World Championships here, the Colombians have made every rider feel extremely welcome. Crowds enthusiastic. I'm sure they would love to see a Spanish-speaking winner, but even so, they're making every rider welcome to Colombia. They do appreciate the sport. A little breakaway going immediately now on the capture of Laurent Roux. They're trying to establish a little smooth-moving breakaway. Claudio Chiappucci, I think, is the rider who spearheaded the attack, and Gianni Farazin, so 2 Italians straight at the front, and there they are. Farazin, Chiappucci, Morleon, and this rider coming on is Jose Jaime Gonzalez from Colombia. So the Colombians trying desperately to put in a good performance on home ground. Well, at least the conditions, which are not great right now, there's a threat of rain. It is chilly, but the sun is shining as we speak. The only chance that we get to see the riders racing in the colours of their country rather than their trade team, so they form strange alliances. Riders who are normally rivals, of course, now coming together to ride for the country in what is the last professional World Championship, because next year we'll be talking of elite riders as they all line up, and they all can take part if they can get selection in the Olympic Games in Atlanta. There's Farazin. And it looks as though he's having a bit of a tough time now. The hill again claiming yet another victim here as the main field keeps the tempo, watches the riders slip away from the back. But then, my goodness me, there's some fast tempo riding. Miguel Indurain is the rider now, with all of his Spanish teammates around him. First World Championship, by the way, was in the Nürburgring back in 1927. So it's rather sad in a way that we're watching the final world title for professionals. There is, of course, now the Under-23 World Championship and the actual World Championship, which means that we'll see these riders in against riders we've normally referred to in the past as amateurs next year. And they'll all be in the Olympic Games as well. I wonder indeed if Miguel Indurain and the big names of cycling will go to Atlanta, Georgia for the Olympic Games, coming so close as it does this time to the Tour de France. So coming round to the end of the lap, and it looks as though we just lost Fares in there. He's gone back into the field, Indurain, licking his lips. A runner-up in the World Championship, never won the title, but he's a world champion now for the very first time in his career. A few days ago, winning the time trial championship from his teammate, Abraham Olano. I think we all expected that one. The man who has proved himself time and time again, the fastest time trial rider in a Tour de France, now deservedly the world time trial champion. But in fairness, Chris Foreman unable to defend the title he won last year because of that accident in the prologue time trial in the Tour de France. But Chris is making good progress. Rolf Sørensen here, very resplendent in the colours of Denmark, and that's Paolo Lanfranchi, who doesn't seem too keen. And Dmitry Konishev, the Russian rider, number 14. And Javier Morlion is number 88. And the riders now have covered 177 kilometres. This is a small chase group here, being led by Udo Boltz, the German rider. But they're moving out onto lap number 11, and we have here Rolf Sørensen, and looking for a little bit of help from the rest of the riders here, and not wanting any of it. The other two that are broken clear here, Israel Ochoa, and the rider setting the pace, a man who always seems to perform at World Championship level, Dmitry Konishev, the Russian rider who was the first Soviet to really make impressions on the professional scene. Silver medalist when Greg LeMond was the world champion, and indeed he pipped Sean Kelly, pushing him into the bronze medal slot in Chambéry. And that was in 1989. The field behind now are still those that have got the strength hanging on. Richard Virenque, Zenon Jaskula. And just around the other side there we've got Oliviero Rincon. The man we can expect something of, because he sadly was out of the Tour de France this year at the 12th hour because of problems in those places we can't mention. Now there we have Israel Ochoa. But as you can see how the weather has changed now. We've gone into a storm here, and this is just a gentle reminder that the weather was never intended to be hot and sunny in Duitama, and that's the way it's going to be, I think, now. The clouds are very heavy indeed. Now the Colombians know all about this, but look at the rain here as they climb yet again. Ochoa setting the pace with Dmitry Konishev. We're on to lap number 11 of 15 circuits. And Pascal Richard, former champion of Switzerland, continuing to have another great season, setting the pace of what is now a very small group indeed here. One or two names I can tell you are in that group. We've got Miguel Indurain, Mauro Gianetti, Puccini, Richard Virenque, Abraham Olano, Oscar Pelliccioli, Javier Morlion, Claudio Chiappucci. I've seen Marco Pantani. Those riders still surviving what is certainly a war of attrition. And look at this now as they go round that corner. Somebody didn't make it at all and has gone straight on. But this is the danger of the descents in the wet here, as riders now are finding that they're losing complete traction on those corners. They are glacial. Let's have a look at that again. And that is a Colombian rider who's gone, and I think it is Ramirez who's gone down. Well, you can't fall in a more convenient spot when you're at the wheels of the waiting ambulance, so he should be okay. It wasn't really very much of a high-speed crash. He should get back on his bike pretty soon. We're back with the leaders here now, and we've gone off the mountain, and we've We're finding a little bit dry weather conditions again. Remember, at the bottom of the circuit here is still 8,300 feet above sea level. Those riders with intention this year have gone to great lengths, not to mention expense, to train properly and prepare at altitude for this event. 5 hours and 16 minutes. The riders have been clear now, as these two riders still stay clear. As we move into lap 12, there's a consolidation of a group behind. The lead was previously 1 minute and 25 seconds. It's come down as we go out onto lap number 12, and the Italians again are very active. They come through and stop the clock. 56 seconds is now the gap to Ochoa and Konishev. And Marco Pantani is now winding things up yet again. Here's a man everybody would love to see turn in a World Championship performance. And I must say, seeing the four-wheel drive vehicles here following the two leaders reminds me of the old peace race that was the shop window of Eastern European cycling in the 60s, and you always used to follow those in army vehicles. Well, conditions are not requiring yet four-wheel drive, although the rain upon the mountain is enough to give everybody a thorough soaking. This is the chase group that's trying to assemble themselves now, and it looks to me as though we've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 or 9 people here. The Italian rider there, number 59, is Casagrande. And the little man there from Polti, that will be Oscar Pelliccioli. Probably remembered best in the United States by his King of the Mountains victory in the Tour du Pont a year or so ago. And they come from the town of Duitama, but what a lot of pressure too to do well. Well, he's doing all right now, because he's up in the chase group being driven on here by Miguel Indurain, the man everybody is saying has the form. We know that after his great time trial ride. And Escartin also here, ride number 83. The Spanish rider who continues to progress here. The Spanish team is tremendously strong this year. Maybe we're seeing a swing away from the Italians towards the Spanish. Remember, the Spanish, by the way, have never won the world title. Two Italians have made the split, Pelliccioli, Marco Pantani. The race now taking on a much more serious approach to this mountain route. You're either going up or going down. Back with the leaders here. Israel Ochoa and Dmitry Konishev. And the Colombians far from disappointing the home crowd so far. We had the long breakaway by the Frenchman, Rouvy. He's been picked up and washed away on the climb, but he's got a good future in front of him. He's only 22 years of age, by the way, Rouvy. And a very good ride last year when he finished 5th in the Paris-Nice stage race. Just 33 seconds now, and judging by the speed as we look down from our helicopter, it won't be long before we see that chase group come back. Dmitry Konishev perhaps thinking of the ride still to come that lies ahead if he wants to turn in another good world title performance. This isn't the moment now to put a lot of weight behind this breakaway. He may already have sensed, in fact, that Ochoa is not the rider to be with. Coming on to lap number 12, or completing lap number 12 rather. About halfway round the course here, and still on the climb. There's the very select little group, about 15 men. And in fact, 1 or 2 more Italians are here now. Number 59 is Francisco Casagrande, having a great season, which all started out with a stage win in the Tour of Calabria back in March. And since then, he had a great Spring Classic season with 4th in Flèche Wallonne and 5th Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and 2nd in the Tour of Romandy in Switzerland in May. So deserving his place on the Italian team, and this man, well, he certainly deserves his place, and he's dancing away on the climb. If anybody should love this mountain, it should be Marco Pantani. He's turned up the pressure just that little bit now. He's decided on lap number 12 it's time to start breaking up the field. Jimenez is trying to get on terms with him there for Spain, but it looks as though it's going to be Pantani using the leapfrogging effect to start with the 2 leaders who are away, Ochoa and Konishev. But he's going to find that there's no strength in this leading group. When he gets there, he's going to have to continue and hope that somebody perhaps will join him. Till I cannot believe that he is anticipating another 3 laps of this circuit alone. So Pantani has made his move. He's got up alongside the 2 leaders. and left them completely for dead, although you've really got to hand it to Israel Ochoa. He's just gone round and left Konishev, and he's joined the new express, which appears to be going forward. So Pantani keeps the rhythm high. This could be the first serious selection now. This could well break up that chase group. There's still an awful lot of riders back there. The Italians, as always, one for all and all for one, will not be countering the reaction of Marco Pantani. Spain have been particularly active today. Indurain quite clearly feels he has the form, and it looks as though his Lieutenant Jimenez is coming up. And this is all that seems to be left at the moment of this group. Pascal Richard, who is in this group, or in the group just behind our picture at the moment, trying to drag the racing back into contention. Mauro Gianetti, now recovering from his injuries that kept him out of the Tour de France, is also in this group. Remember, he was the man who shocked us all with back-to-back wins in the World Cup in April and May time. Abraham Olano. The Spanish riders have got 4 men up here, and they may even have 5, but this is Jimenez at the front. There could be 4 of them back in that pack. Jimenez has scored to Ochoa. 3, 6, 8, 9 riders in what is a very select chase group here at the minute. Federico Escartin, rider 83, turned pro 5 years ago now, but he's only just starting to show us his real true talent. Finished 7th in this year's Tour de France, and now looking for a good World Championship as well. There's Jimenez. He's finding it a little bit hard to capture the man who's danced away on the mountain though, and the wet roads, Marco Pantani. A true mountain climber, the like we haven't seen really since the retirement of men like Lucien Van Impe. Sits there and concentrates. He belies his young age with his bald head. That's the style. And now we're looking as though they might be just trying to reorganize themselves behind. Remember, there's a lot of Spanish riders in this group, not least this man here who's setting the pace right now, Miguel Indurain. No reason to panic just yet. There's plenty of time. Pascal Richard sitting firmly on the wheel of Indurain, and it looks as though it's going to may all come back together this time at least. There's Richard, number 31. Mauro Gianetti. But there were 1 or 2 French riders in this group before the attack came. Pascal Hervé and Richard Varennes were there, but they seem to have disappeared very, very quickly under the attack. Indurain the first to reach him as the climb continues, and what a difficult climb this is. The amateur race was equally as exciting and very arduous indeed. That was of course a qualifying event for the road teams for the Olympic Games in Atlanta, and got a tremendous entry, record entry by the way, for these World Championships, more than 75 nations entering. But I wonder if that would have been the case if they hadn't have been necessary for selection to the Olympic Games. Proved to be a perfect carrot though for the South American nation, and they've had a tremendous World Championships here. Jimenez, number 87. This is a superb little group that they're trying to get clear with now. Mauro Gianetti, 2 World Cup victories, and currently lying 3rd in the World Cup with just those points scored. 100 points from 50 points a win. Miguel, who has 82 in this event. A man who's had seconds in the World Championship but never the World Champion. Something I think he's beginning to get to him. So many people are saying he's a man only for the month of July for the Tour de France, which in itself is not true, because of course he's won the Tour of Italy in the month of June. And yet he never seems to worry about the World Championships. But I think this year he's come here thinking very much of these championships. We've got, and these two have been dropped slightly from the main field. Number 1 is Rincon, number 84 is Abraham Olano. Olano, I think, and Rincon are coming up from the split there. They've recovered from the counter-attack by Indurain as he went after Pantani, and those two are getting up to the leaders again. So Rincon is keeping the Colombian flag flying high at the moment. That's if he gets on, but I think he will once we're over the top of the hill here. Olano, second place in the World Time Trial Championship and having a tremendous season too. A great battle, Olano and Laurent Jalabert in the Tour of Spain, which was unaccustomedly held in September this year, as it will be next year. And he proved to be the man in charge in the time trial. He's finding his legs again in a major event. He's got the form and he's got himself up to the leaders as well. If you ever get a chance to look at the face of Abraham Olano, just watch him, because he looks almost identical to Miguel Indurain. It's quite uncanny. There's Rincon, number 1. He's back and relieved about it too by the look of it. Looks to be about 10 riders forming in this lead group now. Notable absentees, probably Richard Virenque is the big noted absentee, because he's been riding well all day. Cullen and is out of this group as well. And he looked to be going quite well. Well, the risk is always there on these descents, because your brakes never work quite as well as they should. As they sort of slide as you apply the brakes to the rim, you get that film of water between brake and rim. The bike gives you that horrible feeling it's accelerating rather than slowing down. These are the strong men of world cycling right now, because on this circuit you can't cheat your way around and hope to win the sprint, as 1 or 2 world titles have been decided in long years gone by. On this circuit you've got to come out, you've got to give it your best, and you've got to hope. Well, that looks to me as though we've got Escartine on the attack again down there. And if we have, the rider in the red jersey, I think, could well be Puccini. Now, they've only just gone clear. And that little select group is now deciding what they're going to do about it. But one thing is for sure, that the Spanish have got this race highly under control at the moment. Felice Puccini is a Swiss rider with Refan normally, and that's him there, number 33. And he's read this move quite well. He's got himself a very good rider in Escartine, because he is another rider who's having a tremendous season. He turned professional back in 1990 when he had himself a clutch of wins as an amateur, almost 100 wins as an amateur rider before he turned pro. And now he's got himself into the lead. Going out here onto lap number 13. And Puccini and Escartine have got themselves about 15-20 seconds gap. It says 10 on the screen at the moment. But the clock is on freeze. Now we're moving. Paolo Lanfranchi bringing them through at around about 25 seconds. Through the feed station, out onto lap 13, 3 laps still to go. Richard Virenque appears to have recouped somewhat. Rolf Sorensen, who's just gone through the left of our picture. Now this is the group that is trying to bring back. They've come back onto the back of the group here now, and Indurain has gone down the line to check them all out as he's done so. Casagrande is also here now, so we've had quite a coming up togetherness of the main chase field as they've slowed down, an indication that they did slow down, and I would say it's because the Spanish have turned off the power at the front, because we've got here now Escartine and Puccini trying to go clear. Puccini making a good move here. Now the Spanish are riding this World Championship like we've seen the Italians do year in and year out. They put men away into breakaways all of the time. They don't care which one gets the world title as long as the country succeeds, and they all share in the kitty. And right now that's exactly what the Spanish have been doing throughout the day since they picked up the Frenchman. And it's being left to the Italians to try and put matters to rights. 31 is Gianetti. 82 is Big Mig himself. Number 1 is Rincon. 59 is Casagrande. On the far side, back to heel at the moment at least, is Marco Pantani. Richard Varenk is also there. Rolf Sorensen, a man for the single day certainly, and a man for the World Championships as well. And Jose Jaime Gonzalez is number 10, still flying the flag for Colombia. So Colombia have certainly 3 riders here, because also here Israeli Ochoa, who is in that breakaway with Konishev. He's done extremely well to stay with the action right at the front, despite that attack with Konishev. Konishev is no longer here. It's Spain and Italy, with an intrusion from Colombia, the way the action is coming at the moment. Mappe, the number 1 team in the world, again providing us with men in the thick of the action. There's Lanfranchi, number 66. Has that strange squat little style, rather similar to Pantani. Number 84 is Alano. It's just off our camera. You see how he looks like Miguel Indurain? This is Lanfranchi. There's the little climber, Pelliccioli. Well suited to this course today as we go further up the climb. They're not really escaping yet, but Mr. Wermelinger, the commissaire there with the red hat on, I'm not sure whether his car should be right in the gap yet, although it's probably bigger than it appears on television. But they can see the cars, they can see the 2 leaders, and the Italians are having to do all of the work now because they're under a Spanish escort. Pelliccioli making the rhythm. The gap is 15 seconds, so they're holding. Pantani, Varenk looking very, very concentrated. And Escartine is doing the majority of the riding here. Puccini, whose only win this year, by the way, was the national championship rather in Switzerland, which he's done for the 2nd year. You may remember that Felice Puccini was the rider who made that long breakaway in the San Sebastian Classic this year, so perhaps he was in search of just topping off his form, ready for the world title. Well, it could have worked. He's in at the kill, and there aren't many riders left in this race. 98 at the start, and I think we're looking at no more than 35 riders still on the course. Once over the top of this hill, it's down to the finishing line, and then the riders about a lap and a half from the finish. The work being done all the time by Escartine. Puccini has made the move, but I'm not sure now he's got the legs to push it home. It seems to me, although this breakaway is clear, it is well under control of the chasers behind. But you can see by the way the riders struggle on this climb just how steep it is. Our cameras really belie the climb. It is a vicious, vicious climb for a World Championship. It's probably the most difficult circuit since 1980 in Solange, when Bernard Hinault won what was most certainly an elimination race there, as riders each lap just simply dropped away rather than a breakaway forming, and in the end Hinault was magnificent. He got his world title on a very difficult course down in France in Solange. The rhythm of Fernando Escartine. Finished 12th in the Tour de France in 1994, went 5 places better in 1995. He's always ridden well in the Tour of Spain. He was 10th in that in 93, 9th in 94. He was right up there again this year. So he continues to improve despite the fact that he's moving into his 6th season as a professional next year. And despite the weather, a huge crowd on the climb. This is the place to be. This is where the race was bound to be decided or lost. And these 3 riders still hanging on to a tenuous lead. It's no more than 25 seconds as we speak. There's somewhere in the region of 16 riders now in that chase group. Pace group, we've got Rincon. Dmitry Konishev, by the way, is still here. He hasn't been dropped, and neither has the rider he was in that breakaway with either, Israel Ochoa. Francesco Casagrande is here. Jose Maria Jimenez, Fernando Escortin is in the breakaway and still trying to keep away from what is a fair number of his own teammates, but they won't be chasing him, of course. Zenon Yaskulu is here. And although I haven't caught a glimpse of him, the list of riders were told Andy Hampson is also here. Well, as far as I know now, Andy is the only American still out on the course. Mike Engelman was the last American rider to retire. Remember, Mike had a great time trial. He finished 8th in the World Championship, so his World Championships already will seem to him a great success. Through the feeding zone, a welcome sight, but when you can always tell a serious bike race, when the pressure's on, they don't stop to snatch the drinks as they continue to apply the pressure. Pelliccioli is actually keeping a huge gear turning there, and he's being marked now by Abraham Olano, whose season has gone from strength to strength. But one thing was always certain, this was never going to be a race for the sprinters, and none has survived here. We've got all the climbers, men that we've often called in the big races around the world on the biggest mountains. They are surviving. This is their World Championship this year. It was always going to be that way. Escartin is a good climber. Bottini perhaps not quite as strong, but he's at the moment in the breakaway, and they're still going clear. They continue to climb. The riders will not see them now. They've climbed out of sight. Bottini goes through on the inside, quite prepared to make the pace. The race starts to tip a little bit, and soon they'll be going down the hill. Oscar Pelliccioli and Olano just behind him. Olano has only been a pro since 1992. He's just 25 years of age, good time, nice mature time of life to be a professional bike rider. Number 1 is Rincon, still with one of his teammates in front of him. I think it was Gonzalez. No, it wasn't, it was Ochoa, number 7. Rolf Sorensen, the tail end Charlie of the string. And the gap is still opening up here. And looking into this very select group, there's no Stars and Stripes jersey there of Andy Hampson, who is still on the course, but he's riding round out of touch of this main field. And number 14, sitting at the back of that group, ahead of Rolf Sorensen, is Dmitry Konishev, so he's still very much in there. Now, when they get down off this mountain here, they'll be completing their 13th circuit, and they're still hanging on to the best part of a half a minute's lead. There's no reason to panic yet. A lot of riders here, like Sorensen, look to me as though they're just trying to survive rather than take part in the race right now. Konishev and Sorensen riding at the back of this race. Konishev, the rider who turned pro in 1989 and then popped up with a silver medal in the World Championship at Chambéry. He's had the pleasure, as is for all riders, to win the final stage 2 of the Tour de France, which he did 1991 it would have been. It was the year that our man Jamaluddin Abdu Japarov crashed in sight of the line with that spectacular fall. Those roads absolutely treacherous, and that's why the riders are picking the way down rather delicately at this minute in time. They're using the pressure up the hill rather than down the hill. There's the ambulance waiting on the bend. Quite clearly that bend was recognised on the recce as to be the one to put the ambulance on, and we've already had a fall right on the corner there with Rodriguez. Difference in nerve too, as riders start to just plot their own way down and don't stay too close to the man in front, just in case. This is the descent which takes the riders back down to a mere 8,300 feet, and then there's virtually no respite before they start the climb up the mountain again. It's unlikely, according to the world body, the UCI, that there will ever be a World Championship held at altitude again. The opinions are that it shouldn't be held at altitude again, but on this occasion, one has to say that the World Championships here in Colombia have been a success. I should imagine that the man that picks up this title will feel he's more than justly earned it, because it's got to come from the riders in our picture at the moment, unless of course it's one of the two out front. But in this leading group, certainly the selection has been made now, something like 30 kilometers still to race. The Italians on the defensive for a change, because the Spanish are playing the cards in great order. Rincon sitting at the back, still waiting and hoping he might be able to get away, perhaps with a lap to go. Rolf Sorensen here, the only Dane, as so often he is at World Championship level, left in the thick of the action. Richard Virenque, the Frenchman who shot to fame in the Tour de France when he wore the yellow jersey for a day, now very much an established star of the circuit. Mauro Gianetti, number 31, despite his years as a professional, he seemed to be in his twilight years, pops up with 2 World Cup wins this year. Lanfranchi, again, this cramped style and long reach of Lanfranchi's. He tries desperately now to pull the Italians back into this action. They're having a real problem here, and calming down Felice Puttini and Escartine. Puttini sharing as much of the work with Escartine now. He seemed to go through a bad patch, but he's come back. And you know that perhaps he doesn't like the hill quite so much as Escartine. And the Swiss have 3 riders up here in this leading group, because they've also got Pascal Richard. There's Dumbo Pantani, as they call him, just checking something out with our cameraman. He's quite a character actually, and a very popular addition these last couple of years to the world circuit. Apart from having the legs of an angel, he's also got quite a personality. Indurain in at the kill yet again in the World Championship. A man that everybody thinks can't sprint, but believe me, if he thinks he can win a world title, he will produce a sprint that could well take the title out. He won the sprint that took Olaf Ludwig away from the silver medal the year Lance Armstrong won in that very wet Oslo. Well, the course wasn't quite as difficult in Oslo, but certainly the weather was just as cold and miserable. And Miguel also got a bronze medal in the World Championship in 1991 in Stuttgart. So he is a man for a World Championship, and he would dearly love to pick up the world title. The 2 men who featured most in last year's World Championship in Agrigento in Italy in this breakaway, as we look at the 2 leaders here coming round to complete lap number 13 and go out on 14. Richard Virenque finished 3rd last year, and Dmitry Konishev finished 5th. And luckily, Claudio Chiappucci, who would have been in this leading group but for a fall, he was in the medals last year in the world title as well, with a silver. And so still they dangle, agonizingly close. Just look at this, they can be seen. The gap looks to me to be about 20 seconds or so. Not very far, except that that mountain in the middle of this circuit is rather daunting to everybody, and if you hesitate too long, you might not close the gap. They are now 35 kilometers from the finish. 6¼ hours in the saddle, and they can expect the best part of another hour of racing here. Pelliccioli of Italy setting the pace. The gap as they went through the finishing line there was just about 25 seconds. Virenque tagged on to the back, a medalist a year ago. Whoops, said Daisy. Over goes the can. Good job it was empty. I'm not sure whether that means it was a tailwind or not. A quick snatch of the bottle there for Richard Virenque. Again flying the lone flag here for France. Luc Leblanc had a thoroughly forgettable season as world champion. I haven't seen him ride a single race in his rainbow jersey this year. It started out so badly, yet he came to Colombia. He was one of the first riders to see this circuit when the road wasn't even made up. reported how difficult it would be. He's certainly right there. And then when he goes back to France, he finds his Le Groupement team in the throes of leaving the sport under a cloud of controversy, which is a great shame for Luke. And let's hope that things brighten up for him next year. These two riders just locked on, Bottini and Fernando Escartin. I have to say, if either of them won, there would be a surprise, but Escartin wouldn't be seen as a total surprise. And while he's got the power of what is an extraordinarily good Spanish team this year right behind him, he's got the confidence to go on. He is forcing the Italians especially to waste energy in the pursuit, and he knows it. Two Swiss riders here, sitting a little bit down the line, Richard and Gianetti. The Colombians also not throwing their back into this race because they know the Italians and their great reputation in the World Championships. They will do all that's required. Escartin has the benefit of Olano and Indurain here, who are sitting nicely in the line and not doing much at all. Just keeping an eye on the proceedings. And also in this group for Spain is Jose Maria Jimenez. Every reason to block off. Israel Ochoa taking a drink at the back. He's had a great day. Despite that long breakaway, he doesn't seem to have been troubled at all in keeping at the back of this race. Neither does the hometown boy, Oliviero Rincon. There's Dmitry Konishev. And number 10 is Jose Jaime Gonzalez from Colombia. 59 is Casagrande. Rolf Sorensen of Denmark. Pantani is 67. Like all climbers, they never seem to stay in the saddle very long. They're frisky. And continuing along the line of this very select group, 94 is Richard Bereng. 31 is Mauro Gianetti. In front of him, the former champion of Switzerland, Pascal Richard, and a stage winner in the Tour de France, a Besançon, I remember. Number 87 is Jimenez. Number 82 is Indurain. In front of him is his double, Abraham Olano. And then we have Lanfranchi, and pedaling away at the front, we have Pelliccioli on the Polti squad. And the Italians are being left to do all the work here. And they're a proud nation, and they want to continue, but I can only think now that they're working in the hope that they can pull this back together again for Marco Pantani to win. Because neither Lanfranchi nor Pelliccioli, I think, have got quite the pedigree to take out this world title, not in this sort of company. But certainly Marco Pantani has. But first of all, they've got to pull back these two. They're slightly reducing the gap. It's gone down from 25 seconds to 15. There's a group of 16 riders behind now. And Bottini is beginning to wonder whether it's all worthwhile. Escartin is now. Mr. Louis Wermelinger, the chief commissaire, has pulled out of the gap all of the vehicles. They'll have noted that, the riders, and there they are, the 16 pursuers. The Italians doing it all. Pelliccioli, the lion's share as well. And then behind the two Italians, the Spanish still trying to disrupt the reaction. And behind we have Pascal Richard, and then the rest of the line in a long straight line. It's not a working formation at all. They're all lying in the drift, in the drafting system behind the two Italians. Nobody prepared to help. That's the difference between professional and amateur racing. Everybody has their own reasons to make the pace, whereas with amateurs they would tend to all do a little bit each and possibly reel that break in a lot quicker. But tactics are being played here, and they're weakening the Italian team by this great chase. And at the moment it has got to be in the favour of the Spanish. They've played their men up front and they've made other teams chase them down. Now then, sir, about this bicycle. Well, I think the lightest machine required on this course is for sure, and that one I don't think would make a lap. It's been a terrific circuit in many ways, great for the spectators, but terribly, terribly difficult for the riders to participate in. There were only 98 brave souls came to this start line, and there are now fewer than 25 still left in the race. Rather sad in one way that Claudio Chiappucci has crashed out. It was a spectacular fall, but he's uninjured, by the way. but we've lost a man there that would have been very useful in this attack. I mustn't forget Casagrande, of course, on the wheel at the moment just in front of Pantani at the back, because Casagrande is another guy who could actually do a good finish in this event. Everybody talks about Casagrande as to be a star of the future, which very often means you never are, but he has a brother as well, Filippo, who's also had a win this year, one win for him, stage 5 it was of the Tour of Italy. Francisco, who's in the breakaway here, he's only had a couple of wins, but he's had some terrific performances under his belt as well. Lanfranchi setting the pace, followed by Pelliccioli. Then comes the Spanish, then the Swiss, then the only Dane in the breakaway, Sorensen, with the white stripes on his jersey. And then further down, I think we're looking at the riders who are waiting for the chance to springboard, the likes of Casagrande and Marco Pantani. Again back into the rain. Again Puccini is not now putting all of his enthusiasm into this breakaway, and I think we're about to see the train catch up. The Italian Express on the flat road before we go through the start and finish and climb the mountain yet again. It looks to me as though we're going to come all together. And there it is. As they make the right-hand bend, it will be, in fact, the first man to pick him up will be Lanfranchi, followed by Pelliccioli. That was a terrific chase down by the two Italians. They received absolutely no assistance. The race went at the end of the 12th lap. They were away all of the 13th lap. They were away almost all of the 14th lap. But now we have 18 riders in front. Now the Spanish have played the cards. They've got their man caught. The next obvious thing to do if they're going to continue the trend is to attack, because they've got all the men in this breakaway to continue to put the pressure on the rest of the group. And in fact, here comes the move from the Spanish riders again. Alana, no, I thought Alana was going to have a go there, but in fact Alana just moved up on the wheel of Pelliccioli as the climb once more starts, with everybody taking very close alignment here once more. Escartine is the rider nearest the camera. He still looks pretty cool. Milano 84, and a very strong move down the outside. In fact, that is Jose Gonzalez who's gone for Colombia. And the Spanish reaction is coming again. So you see Spain are so intent on this. I'm not sure whether that wasn't Miguel Indurain who made the move right there. And in fact, it was number 87 who made the move. So it was Jimenez and Gonzalez. Isn't it amazing how the Spanish speakers now have come into their own in a country where they speak that language? Never had such a world championships in their life. And now up comes, I think it's Mauro Gianetti. And gone straight by. Gonzalez, I don't think has got a second kick in him, but certainly Jimenez has. Now, this is the rider that caused absolute panic in Colorado when they had the training races over there. And I think contributed to the fact that Lance Armstrong decided he wasn't good enough to come to this World Championship. And instead he went home to Texas. Jimenez then has now come up onto the back wheel. He is very much a man who could pull off this world title. At first ever it would be two for Spain. He's gone up alongside Mauro Gianetti. What a great season Gianetti has had, spoiled only by a rather silly crash in mid-term in the Tour of Switzerland, which caused him to miss the Tour of France. But you know, so often happens, if you have a mid-season crash, you allow a little time for the body to recuperate, pressures are gone for a while, you can come back so well at around the time of the World Championship, and Gianetti may well be heading for victory here too. So, Mauro Gianetti and Jimenez, and we've got rider 83, well that's Escartine again, but I think he's going the other way at the moment. His legs have gone to rubber and Escartine has lost ground. So after that long breakaway, sadly, he's done his job well. It didn't work out, but it certainly split the group because of the efforts, and now the Spanish again have left their strong men into the thick of the action here, and a number of riders have lost contact there. Still sitting at the back though, Dmitry Konishev, Oliviero Rincon. this great Colombian climber. Colombia are going to take this race right down to the finishing line. You can't ask more than that from the home side. And remember, Colombians never feature in a World Championship. Put it on their own ground, and they've got riders right in at the kill. That's tremendous. Indurain here as well. The quality of these names makes this really and truly a superb World Championship here in Duitama. As we now look at Mauro Gianetti, who's 31 years of age and been a professional now for 10 years. But he's never had a great result in a World Championship, although he's certainly ridden a few for Switzerland. And now he's in towards the kill here in this one on what is a very, very tough circuit indeed. But he has for a passenger right now, and he doesn't seem to be working that hard either, is Jimenez, and he may just be wanting to play the policeman, because Indurain is coming up in what is now a smaller group behind. Pantani leading the reaction again for Italy. The Italians always having to drag this race back together, but now Pantani is the only Italian left in the group, and that is why he's having to do the work. The man who's surprising me is number 7 there, Israel Ochoa. He was in that breakaway with Konishev. He is still in the final selection. Jimenez, Gianetti. Surely this cannot last much longer now. Pantani, this wonderful little climber, keeping the tempo going very, very well indeed. Abraham Alano sitting on the wheel of his teammate Miguel Indurain. And there's Gianetti, and his bronze legs of a man who spent all of his summer riding thousands of kilometres, mostly in nice weather. It's not rust, it is brown skin, because the rain today has been rather tremendous in the middle, especially. So life begins at 31 for Mauro. A win this year in the Liège-Bastogne-Liège and the Amstel Gold Race. Last year, I think his best performance would have come when he finished 9th in the Tour of Lombardy, and that's a race still to come yet this season. And there's a fit gentleman on the right. If he runs fast enough, he might get lift off with that cape on. Well, the field slowly coming back. It's been a lot of hard work by Marco Pantani with no help from anybody else. But I think he'll have done the job. Now, whether he's wasted too much energy, time running out, but once again, a brilliant tactic by this strong Spanish team. And Rincon looks as though he's in a little bit of trouble. Oliveira Rincon is cracking on a hill. He knows like the back of his hand because he lives here. But that race has gone on. It looks as though it's going to be just one lap too far for Oliveira. He'll get all the support, that's for sure, but Rincon out at mid-term with an injury, and now losing ground on the front here as they climb up towards the two leaders. But did you notice there that Dmitry Konishev, and here he is, I was about to say, quickly got round Rincon and rejoined, but in fact he hasn't rejoined, and Konishev is also going off the back. Well, you can almost feel the agony with these riders because it is quite terrible on this climb today now, and there's not many more climbs left, but 15 times up this mountain, and believe me, that's what it is, has made this a ridiculously tough championship. But even so, it says a lot for this very select group of riders to survive for the sprint, if that's what it's going to be. And nobody would have bet on that at the start of the race today. So it looks as though the Spanish are going to have to think again now. Their tactics so far have been nothing short of textbook. Swiss riders too. And perhaps we're not paying enough attention to the likes of Pascal Richard, because there's a man who is an extremely strong rider who wouldn't surprise at all if he managed to turn out a winning ride in a World Championship. It perhaps in some people's eyes is long overdue. He's been a pro for 10 years, just like Gianetti, and indeed I was around when he won the World Cyclocross Championship back in 1988, when he just signed for a new team sponsored by Wyman and got them off to a great start. But he hasn't yet won a world title, although last year he did land the King of the Mountains in the Tour of Italy and indeed won his home Tour of Switzerland for the first time, a race in which previously he had finished second. So he's got the form, I think, and now we'll see if he can finish off the rest of this race today. So the Swiss still have two men up front. The Danes, I don't think, have got any longer Rolf Sorensen. I don't see him in there at all. And this man, who has been something of a hero all day, is now for the first time in a little bit of trouble. This is Ochoa. He has ridden magnificently, this rider, and he is not going to give up. He's going to suffer all the way to the finish, and the crowd appreciate it. He was in that breakaway with Konishev, and now it's again just proved one hill too far for him as he loses ground. The relentless tempo being set by this ever-decreasing, very select band of professional bike riders. And now we've got in this group here setting the pace. We've got Richard and his teammate Gianetti, and Indurain here is sitting at the back of the group, and in fact appears to be asking the question. He's got a problem. Now I think he's got a puncture, but because of the situation he's taken immediately a bike. He didn't even wait for a wheel change. What a time to puncture. That was Konishev who went through on his inside. And I'm not too sure whether Dimitri will have any legs to even race back with Miguel Indurain, if indeed Miguel can get back. Now here's a man who's taking no chances, but he's on a strange bicycle now, and the way he's starting off, he looks a little bit clumsy on it as well. So Indurain, a flat tyre it was, nothing more serious than that. It wasn't a bike breakage, but he made the very quick decision for a bike and not a wheel. And there's the proof of that wise decision. He's pedalling straight back onto the group, and I'm not even too sure whether certain members in this group know he's even in trouble. Well, there is the sign of a brilliant rider, and indeed a man who's made it quite clear. Oh, look at the flood water there, by the way, that's washing off the mountain. But this is a man now who quite clearly has come here to win the world title and take the double. Double of the time trial and the World Road Race Championship, and the prospects next year of becoming the first bike rider to do the other double, the Tour de France and an Olympic gold medal. So place your bets now, quickly, before he wins the world title today, as Indurain now gets to close in on the breakaway. He makes it all look too easy. No panic, just makes his way back in the calmest of measures. And don't forget that Konishev was with him. We've just seen him pass Konishev and he never came back. So we've got 3, 6, 9 riders. Oh, maybe Slammer, 3, 6, 9 riders there are. That's all that's left now. There was originally 18. We dropped 9 the last time up the hill in 1s and 2s. There were originally, of course, 98. But now there are just the 9 riders left. And still the Spanish hold all of the cards here. The Italians are down to just Marco Pantani. The Spanish are down to, I think it's 4 riders still here. The Colombians have all gone on the last climb, Rincon and then Ochoa. Russia have lost their man in Konishev. The Swiss still have 2 here, Pascal Richard and Mauro Gianetti. And the French still have Richard Virenque, so there's still a lot of people to shout for. But with nobody in the lead now, it's a matter of cat and mouse until somebody feels the time is right to have a go. The majority of this breakaway will be watching for the movement of Miguel Indurain. And Indurain might well ask one of his teammates to start the attacking again, just to keep the pressure on. Pantani will be the second favourite, I would have thought now. A long freewheel down off the mountaintop, down to 8,300 feet, and then it's Work your heart out again as you climb back up an elevation of 1,200 feet yet again. One rider stealing quite a march there on the descent. And once we get off the descent, we'll be able to get that back down to our moto cameras. Changing formation in the main line here, so whoever that rider is, there's one or two riders interested to close the gap down very, very quickly. And now we'll find out. And in fact, this is the rider from Switzerland, and it looks to me as though we've got Pascal Richard on the attack. Well, he is the rider which I expected to do something. He's such a good rider. Pascal Richard, and the counter-attack coming as well. In Alano that was. I nearly said Indurain because they look so much alike, but Alano has got up to him. And the other rider is Jimenez yet again. So we've got three riders here now. And that's Gianetti looking over his shoulder. So we've got Richard, Jimenez and Alano. And Konishev here has got back. Took him a bit longer than Big Mig, who's just in front of him. And also Rincon has come back as well after the descent. So Rincon is not out of this yet either. The professionals fighting every inch of the way today. They're declaring all of their real natural talent as bike riders to stay in competition. And in fact, just sitting up there to eat, that was Pascal Richard. So they've caught the breakaway. Olana now taking time out to eat. But an attack here, this is Indurain. Indurain has decided to launch an attack and see what becomes of it, and he's gone back, and look, on his wheel, Dmitry Konishev. Konishev must have come on at the back, saw Indurain, has gone straight through and off the front with him. Well, Konishev can't have much left in those legs, but the way to do it is to try and steal a march and hang on for the finish. The clouds are still very, very dark and more rain threatening, but Miguel Indurain has now launched the feared attack that sooner or later, surely, they all expect it to come, and Konishev was just in the right place as it went. And still trying to eat at the same time there. It looks as though Mauro Gianetti has crossed the gap. It might be Richard. We'll check him out when we can get back up with the leaders if our cameraman doesn't hit the wall. He was almost cut out of it there by the line of riders as they went through. They were desperate to grab the wheels of the men in front. And in fact, it was up front is Gianetti, because here is Richard beginning to feel a bit sorry for the world right now, because he'd just been caught as Indurain launched that attack. And in fact, Richard was riding no-handed, having something to eat. Rincon and Gianetti waving them round. They've managed to contain Big Mig. Konishev now having time out on the far right. Pantani was the rider who quickly recovered from the attack as another one goes down the outside. This is Abraham Olano. Put his head down and went. Now Olano was eating when Miguel Indurain attacked. Indurain has come back. Now he's digested his lunch and he's gone. Abraham Olano has put in a great attack. Indurain looking over his shoulder, trying to tempt somebody to chase. Indurain won't attack him, although he's a rival trade team rider. They both ride for Spain here. Indurain just trying to attract somebody to come through, and nobody will react. Well, this could be a fatal mistake for Pantani, and so too for Mauro Gianetti. Gianetti is signaling, I think, to Pascal Richard to come up and do some work as well. Or maybe even Oliveira Rincon, who doesn't seem too interested. Certainly neither does Richard. No, he's looking over the top of both of them here, which could be, he's calling, in fact, to Richard, his only teammate in the breakaway. They must know that Indurain will not react. There's no point in just waiting for him to react. They're allowing Olano a terrific advantage. Olano is now a speck in the distance. And I wonder what Indurain is thinking now. The chance of a world title is gone, but don't worry, it's my teammate, or does he really want to be in Olano's place? A difficult decision. Remember that Olano beaten by Indurain in the Race of Truth, the time trial. There's not much you can do about your order of finish there because you can't see what's going on. Best time gets the best result, but now you can see what's going on. Bell lap this time. Olano is clear. He faces just one lap, 17.7 kilometers after almost 7 hours on a day of absolute torture. Abraham Olano, they say he's Miguel Indurain's double. Well, now he's going to try and match him with a world title. Indurain trying to draw them out. He's watching everybody. He wants somebody to go and he can take the wheel, but he will not endanger the lead of Olano. He's going to ride round and he's going to watch and stare everybody in the face, and if anybody moves, he'll go with them. The bag is up. He's signalling no, he wants a drink, and now he sees the drink and he gets it. Pantani, the final drink for the final 17.7 kilometers. There looks to me to be enough water in the sky and on the road right now. This superb small group of elite racing cyclists who have made the final cut in the World Championship 1995. And Dmitry Konishev, the elastic is stretched and stretched. He's rebounded back, it's stretched again, it's still there. And there goes the counter-attack now. And you see Indurain always watching who it's coming from. And with arrogant ease comes out of the saddle and tries to bring them back. Now he moves across. He wants Pantani to take up the chase. Pantani is the rider he's worried about. Along, I would think, with Pascal Richard. Well, it's Mauro Gianetti going through. He spotted a Swiss jersey, and in fact, Indurain taking that, making Pantani chase. Rincon digging deep. He's also closed down. But there are two riders up front there, and I'm not too sure who they are at the moment, but it looks to me as though at least one of them is another Spaniard. Which is quite amazing, the way the Spanish have ridden this race today. In fact, we've got one of the riders here. I think it's Ochoa must have come back on. I didn't see him rejoin the race, but he's now in this group here. And the other rider looks to me as though it is Jimenez. So the little bit of respite after Olano went, and this very, very strong but little Colombian climber has climbed right back into this race again. But they've also been caught. And while they play these cat and mouse games, this man here is getting on with the job, and that's winning a world title. What a year he's had. Indeed, it follows on from a great year last year when he had 8 victories and he finished 5th in the World Championship time trial. Well, this time he's won. He got silver medal to Indurain, and this is how he's launched the attack today. As we look back here, it was a perfect classic move coming from the back of the field and shooting far and wide over the top of the head of the group. And he did it when he had a teammate on the front. In this case, it was Miguel Indurain. He knew Miguel wouldn't chase him, and Miguel, by the very, very fact he was there, has put the others off the counter-attack. A brilliant move, and now nobody is willing to take up the chase. You see Pantani here. He was the rider that wanted to do something but didn't. Now we go back to the action once more, and here he is, Abraham Olano, second in the Tour of Spain, and he won all 3 time trial stages of the Tour of Spain this year. And it's very unusual for a man that wins all the time trials not to run out the overall winner of the race, but in fact the Tour of Spain found Laurent Jalabert on demonstrative form, and Jalabert now the new world #1 because of his fine riding in the Tour of Spain. No Jalabert here, and Olano now free as a bird at the moment. This select group behind has continued to swell again. 1 or 2 riders have clawed the way back. We've seen Rincon come back. We've seen Ochoa come back. But there are so many tired legs here, and the Spanish have done everything right today. I'm not surprised that the sport has taken off so much now in the wake of Miguel Indurain, but unlike in the days of the great Eddy Merckx in Belgium, where there were no big stars behind him, it's quite clear now that behind Miguel Indurain in Spain, there are plenty of big stars coming through. Pantani now bareheaded and still hoping to make something of this World Championship. Must be feeling very, very concerned indeed. Casagrande has got back up here to do a little bit of pacemaking for him. Struggled to get back and now gone straight to the front to try and reduce the deficit on this final climb of Abraham Olano. 31 is Richard, 14 is Konichev. Richard Varenk is still here, the only Frenchman to survive today. Team car has just gone through for Spain, heading up to the man in the lead. They've been up and down the bunch all day today, servicing riders in the breakaways, because apart from that very first breakaway by Rouvy, who was from France, the Spanish have had a man in every move. And it looks to me now as though life is beginning to slip away, because if they're going to just wait for one rider to do all the pacemaking, they are not going to catch Alano. Well, I said right at the beginning of our program, the first World Championship was held back in 1927, but since that time, we've never seen a world champion on either amateur, professional or women's road racing, believe it or not, from Spain. And now, all that, it seems, is about to change. Abraham Olano, he will be a surprise world champion in many people's books, but not to the experts, because here's a rider who has shown us for the last 2 years he has been progressing and winning the big ones. 30th in the Tour de France last year, 20th in the Tour of Spain, and he was the national champion of Spain in the time trial. Well, this year he's gone better in every discipline. Second in the Tour of Spain, second in the World Championship time trial, and now trying to get one over on them all and become the most coveted rider in the world of cycling, the professional champion of the world. Casagrande giving what little strength he must have left now to try and get Pantani back onto the podium. Jimenez sitting just behind him, never going to help him. Marco Pantani, a little bit confused now. He doesn't know whether to help or save his strength. And Miguel Indurain, probably disappointed he can't be world champion, but at the same time he's played a major part in seeing that a Spanish rider has won a world title today, and it looks like that now. He's been second and third in a world title in years gone by. One rainbow jersey already in the Spanish vaults this week here in Colombia, and it looks certain to be two. Well, the Colombian flag keeping pace here with an Italian and a Spanish rider. So many riders now only interested in seeing the finishing line, like Konichev. And yet Konichev himself packs a pretty powerful sprint. And Sean Kelly remembers to his cost in Chambéry. The rain coincidentally going off as the riders approach the finish to give them hopefully a dry sprint. I think from about midway down this pack now, there's nobody interested in the chase back. And Olano is gaining second by second as he picks up over the field and he races in towards the finish. And it's going to be a time of just over 7 hours for the ride today. 265.5 kilometers. Near enough 150 miles. And 30 seconds is the gap. Olano has flown away. He took most of that immediately while the riders tried to reorganize their thoughts. Nobody has helped at all. Casagrande take up the chase. Jimenez has been content to follow. These are the legs of the man who is set now to become champion of the world. Abraham Olano on the climb for the last time, and my goodness me, those legs must be aching now. Well, the crowd will recognize the Spanish colours. They know that when they shout at this rider, he will understand every word they say. It's perhaps not the Spanish speaker they wanted to see on the climbs. They would have probably preferred to see Rincon, but this crowd has cheered just about everyone today. And the way this group is packing together, they're waiting for somebody to make a move. Somebody has made a move here. There's a counter-attack gone. It's come from Switzerland, which points out to me it might well be Gianetti who's gone again. It is. So Gianetti digging deep once more to try and cause a reaction, and Pantani has got clear and is coming after him. So Indurain has lost ground on Pantani, and this is Pantani's move. It had to come on the climb. It was the anticipated attack. Marco Pantani has gone. His acceleration again cracked people like Rolf Sorensen. Rincon has gone. Pascal Richard is hanging, but not looking very clever right now. Indurain is still in the line. Pantani is up the road. If Pantani can catch Gianetti, they may well turn around the face of this race yet. Richard Berenc, the gifted climber of the Tour de France these past 2 years, is now lying fourth in line on the final climb here in Duitama. Indurain moving up on the left to get onto the wheel of Pantani, who has come back to this group here. So we have Pantani, Indurain, Mauro Gianetti. Richard was at the back of the group, Berenc between the Swiss sandwich. Status quo, these 5 riders. That may have damaged a little bit Olano's lead, that flurry of activity on the climb, but here's Olano now, this massive crowd here, watching the Spaniard climb to what looks to me certainly a world championship now. Abraham Olano surely couldn't possibly have dreamt of being a world champion by the end of this day. Not when you have the obvious candidate on your team in Miguel Indurain. The Spanish have raced between themselves so absolutely fairly. They have played their cards to beat everybody else and quite clearly haven't minded who took the title as long as it was from Spain. They've ridden totally brilliantly. Totally unselfish attitude too by Indurain, who has done nothing at all to damage the lead of Olano. He has marked every move. I would suggest he would dearly like a free lift up to Olano and then he could race again, but even so he will do nothing to damage the lead of him. He's sitting here right behind Marco Pantani, dropping through onto the inside of his chain wheel as they climb the steeper slopes of the big mountain here in Duitama. Indurain always conscious of what's going on around him, but he's certainly not going to go past Pantani at this point. Berenc is the rider tagged on the back. 2 Swiss riders are here, Richard and Gianetti. The rest have all gone now. There they are in the distance. And in theory, this should now be the breakaway. The man missing from that group was Konishev. We didn't see him go, but he's gone. And is the rider probably in the far distance there. Pantani is turning on the pressure, but he's not ridding himself of Miguel Indurain. The only Spanish rider left now, as they've all been dispatched out the back door, except, of course, Olano. And what a great race it's been for Switzerland as well. They've had men in the action throughout. Gianetti clearly recovered from his accident, and Pascal Richard. Further up the slopes now and labouring a little bit. Abraham Olano, well, he knew he was going to hurt himself on this climb. You don't win a world title and not hurt yourself. He had to give everything to hold away from the field on the climb. Now we're pulling back from the helicopter. And there you can see the gap. Is that the gap of a world champion or not? We're going to find out pretty quickly now. The 2 Swiss riders, and Berenc has disappeared from this picture. It looks as though Berenc has lost. There he is. So Richard Berenc has also lost ground. He's gone into the slipstream of the cars, but he's even too far behind them right now. So Richard has cracked as well, leaving 2 Swiss, a Spanish rider and an Italian in pursuit of one lone Spanish leader who now, pedal rev by pedal rev, is heading for a world title. Only a professional since 1992, Abraham Olano. He won't claim to be quite as quick a world champion as Lance Armstrong can after turning pro, but indeed, it's not bad. single victory for him in 1992, no wins at all in 1993, and then a great season last year when he had 8 wins, and this year the strength has continued. Well, we don't want to prematurely say he is the world champion, but if he wins this title, he has to remember that when you are the world champion, you don't seem to have a great season afterwards. Ask Luc Leblanc, indeed ask Lance Armstrong. It seems to be the curse of the rainbow jersey, but I wouldn't think that Alano is thinking of that right now. Richard has gone as well, so the Swiss climber has also cracked. So that leaves Gianetti, who I can't see, but I think he's tucked in the slipstream. Yes, he is, just behind Pantani and Indurain. The relentless pressure of tempo riding on a mountain by this gifted climber has rid off his wheel everyone except the one man he'd love to shed, and that's Miguel Indurain. If he could just get rid of both of them, then he will be able to concentrate on the chase down of Olano. Well, this crowd seems to be getting thicker and thicker. We're on the final ascent of the World Championship, a magnificent crowd. And there is the devil, shades of the Tour de France. The man is back, although it doesn't look as though his horns are quite as big, so it's probably not the same one. And Dumbo Pantani trying desperately now to rescue this world title. All of the Italian team has worked for him today to put him in this position for a podium place. He's now at least only one man around him who might rob him of a podium place. Somebody's going to be unlucky of a top 3 finish. And Olano continues the long, horrific slog of this 8 kilometres of mountain. There they are. Silver and bronze and bad luck. That's all you can say for the poor man who has to be content with the 4th place finish in a World Championship, especially after a day of effort like today. World champions all. And still, no one willing to help Pantani. I'm not sure whether they could anyway.